That was intense.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Power P Podcast. I'm so glad that all of you guys could join us tonight. I'm really excited to have our special guest on here, Ryan. He's here to help us, with our relationship issues and our love issues and our sex topics. So I'm really excited that he's here today. If you like our podcast, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, drop a like, comment, hit the notification bell, and you can find out when we go live next. You don't miss us. And we also have our Power P podcast every Friday night at 8 p.m. So we are here with you live now. So make sure that you set your calendars, set an alarm, whatever you need to do to make sure you're here with us because we love seeing your comments and interacting with you guys. And then also, if you have any kind of question that you want to ask us or get a women's perspective on things, and you're too embarrassed to ask one of your female friends or any kind of family that you know in your life, if you're just too embarrassed to ask them, you can ask us. And you can email your questions to powerpwomen@gmail.com. And we'd be more than happy to answer those for you live on air. And we always keep it anonymous, so don't worry about, getting your business out there or whatever. And also we have Clockwatch podcast every Sundays and Tuesday nights at 9:10 p.m. Myself, Black Earth, King Clips, Big Kev's there. Ian Riddlin, Montana sometimes. She tries to make it. We love her. Mwah. And then we have In Your Face podcast, which is hosted by Riddlin every Saturday and Monday nights at 8 p.m. You can catch that. We talk all about the Bucks, Tampa Bay Bucks. So if you're really into football or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you should definitely check that show out. And then we also have a couple new shows coming in, which is The Professional with Big Kev and The Raid with King Clips. So make sure you stay tuned for those and catch those because, they sound pretty interesting. And I know I will definitely be tuning in for those shows. So I'm Lady E, so I'm glad you guys are with us today. Can't wait to see your comments. And actually, we have a couple comments coming in already. But Montana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, guys. Good to be here with you as usual. I'm going to be very uncomfortable for most of this. So if I dip out, I definitely have issues going on. That really was an issue, though. So that was not my fault. But I'm here, and I love you guys. You're my favorite people, and I'm excited to talk to Ryan. So.
Yay. All right, Tweet.
It is me, Tweet. I'm here. I'm so excited for tonight. Thank you, everybody, that's tuning in and watching and commenting. We greatly appreciate it. We're so excited for Ryan to be here and answer some questions and get some real depth into relationships and sex and whatever else we stumble upon. And guess what? It's Box Wine Friday!
Woo! Yeah, I got my box wine, girl.
So excited. Girl, I am down to the last of the bag.
You got your pee bag ready. All right, girl.
But thank you, everybody, again, and let's get started.
Woo! All right, Ryan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you guys for having me. This should be very fun. My name is Ryan CRC, and as the initialism suggests, I'm a certified relationship coach. I specialize in sexual education. I'm also very heavily involved in equal rights activism, equal rights for the gay and lesbian, transgender, and queer community. The sexual empowerment for women, of course, equal rights for people of different races and people of different socioeconomic statuses. This basically stems from, rationalism or critical thinking skills. I my catchphrase, if you go onto my Facebook, my professional Facebook page, which is also Ryan CRC, you'll see it says "The Truth Heals," and that's because when you use reasoning properly, it can lead you to the truth and objective reality. And once you recognize the truth, that can really help you shed a lot of the stereotypes and prejudices and nonsense that society uses to oppress so many of us. So, and especially sexually. So, which is my forte. So, thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to this.
We applaud you for everything that you do,
Thank you.
and equality for LGBTQ and everything, and it's just amazing. So thank you for joining us.
Yes.
And fair warning, I have no filter, so sorry, Montana.
Neither do I, so it's okay.
Perfect.
You are in the good bunch.
Okay.
Yes, you will fit in perfectly.
Okay.
All right, let's get to these comments, and then we will start with our questions. Brandon, which is Ritalin, he says, finally. Okay, you know what? Calm your ass down, okay? Robert is in the house. Hey, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Yo, you got Ryan on the show. Float your goat. Do you know Float your goat?
No.
No? Okay.
My reputation precedes me, apparently.
Yes, we have Ryan on the show. We're so glad he's here with us.
Well, he's obviously the greatest of all time.
Right?
Goat.
Hi,
Goat.
JoJo.
Here. Yay, JoJo!
Love JoJo.
Love JoJo. She's very open, like just like us. So I know she's gonna have a lot to say during this podcast.
Awesome.
Okay, so I guess I spelled Ritalin wrong. My bad. Okay, I'll get it right the next time. Don't hate me. And Robert says, I'll be right back. Okay, so let's get into our first question of the night, which is, in the dating world, what would you consider red flags to be?
Well, of course, there's different types of red flags. Obviously, the last thing you want is to date someone abusive, so I'll address that. And I think this kind of feeds into one of the later questions, which is personality traits that represent character or personality aspects. As a general rule, abusive people tend to display certain types of behavior patterns. One is they're very insecure. And you can see this when they are very sensitive, very easily offended by things. And especially when you mix that with a temperamental, like 0 to 60, they're doing fine 1 second, and then something insults them, all of a sudden they turn into the Hulk. You know what I mean? And that rage monster comes out, and you're like, where did that come from? This is a warning sign.
Would you consider that a narcissist? A narcissist does these things.
Well, if you're talking about a malignant narcissist in the psychological sense of the word, then that certainly could be. It could just be someone with a bad temper, or it could be a trait of narcissism. But keep in mind that narcissism in the classical sense was based on the Greek god Narcissus, because in this sense, I'm a narcissist, because I like to look in the mirror a lot. I'm very mean. The Greek god looked at his reflection in a pool of water and fell so deeply in love with his own reflection that he fell into the water and drowned. So the classical term of narcissist actually just refers to someone who's very into aesthetics and likes looking at themselves. But if you take someone like Donald Trump, he's a malignant narcissist who thinks that the world revolves around him and any and everything is about him. And if it's not about him, then it's wrong. And that's why you have this delusional sort of mindset where he can completely deny all reality and truth and evidence, in favor of whatever reality that he concocts. Like Hillary said in the first debate, you live in your own world, and he does. That's what cultists do, is they live in an alternate universe where they construct a reality that the rest of the world is just like, okay, psycho. But there is certainly other characteristics to look out for. Because when I was young, I had a temper, but my temper was not ego-based. I was never sensitive. Like, I could take a joke about myself and I love self-deprecating humor. I actually I make T-shirts kind of for fun, and I have one that has almost like a silhouette of my face, which is to say it's just kind of like similar hair and glasses, and it says "sexy nerd." So, and it's kind of like
I love it.
well, it confuses people because am I being arrogant? Am I being self-deprecating? You just don't know with me.
Self-aware.
Yeah, but I also like the idea of promoting that intelligence is sexy and that nerds are sexy. But getting back to the main question, most guys who, and let's face it, when it comes to abuse, especially physical abuse, it's usually going to be guys. It's women can be abusive. I've experienced it firsthand, but or secondhand, but generally it is men. And like I said, that temper, the real sensitive ego, these are telltale signs. Controlling behavior is really a telltale sign. And one of the things that confuses people is that men will disguise controlling behavior as concern. Like, oh, sweetie, I don't really like the way your sister talks to you. I think it's very disrespectful. Maybe you shouldn't talk to her so much anymore. She really doesn't treat you well. And what he's trying to do is isolate you from your sister because he wants to be the one in your life. He doesn't want you to have any other support system in the area.
Yeah.
Or, honey, I know you want to go with your girlfriends tonight to the club, and I think that's great. But there's a lot of really bad dudes. I think I should go with you just to protect you and keep you safe. No, he wants to keep an eye on you and keep tabs on your every move. That's what he really wants to do. So a woman might fall for this kind of, behavior in the beginning because everyone puts their best foot forward in the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. But then you start to notice things like the temper, the ego, the sensitivity, the yelling at things that, especially at kids or animals. Anyone who treats kids and animals wrong, they're a bad fucking seed, because there's no reason for that. I'm even a big fan of how do people treat waiters and waitresses. If you're rude to people who are serving you your food, they should spit in it and you fucking deserve it. And you're an asshole. I mean, I respect people in service because I don't have the patience.
Right.
I couldn't serve people food. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't deal with people in that way. So I respect other people who can, I'm a little OCD, I'm a little germophobic. So I really respect janitors and people who keep things clean, So if someone can't respect that, that doesn't mean they're abusive, but it does indicate a kind of arrogant, superior personality that you might want to be aware of when these factors are combined.
When you mentioned in the beginning, with you're now dating somebody and they're talking to you and oh, I want to go out with you, or this person, they might not be talking to you. In the beginning, it almost seems like they're actually giving a fuck about you or trying to give that sense that they actually care. And that's how they reel you in. You get sucked in that way by thinking, oh, well, he wants to go out and make sure I'm good and I'm fine and I'm, not being hit on or being, approached by people I don't want to be approached by, or a family or a friend that might be talking to me disrespectfully. That in the beginning seemed to someone who might not be strong-minded or strong-willed or have you, and then that's how people get sucked in that circumstance. So was clear. That was spot on.
And you really hit the nail on the head with someone, because there is a certain, it's the in this case we're talking about the male being abusive and the woman being the victim. If the woman is already kind of like you said, maybe not very strong, and she's already sort of predisposed to giving in or to surrendering to that kind of temperament, then the man is going to pick up on that, and he's, it's going to be that dynamic. He's going to be the abuser and she's going to be the victim. and it's going to be a vicious cycle. Now, if the woman says, you know, I'm a grown woman, I go with my friends all the time, we can take care of ourselves, then you judge by his response. If his response is, you know, he gets angry, I just care about you and blah blah blah. No, no, that's a problem. Or if he has the opposite response where he goes kind of like cold shoulder and he like avoids you, like he's crying in the corner kind of thing. Again, you're talking about someone who's not mature enough for a relationship. The appropriate response would be like, "Oh shit, I'm sorry. You know, I didn't mean to like disrespect you or offend you. I just was concerned." Yeah. So yeah, you're definitely right about that. You know, and it is a two-way street because an abusive guy isn't going to be with a strong woman. He wants to be with a woman he can prey on. He's not going to be with a woman who calls him on his shit. You know. You know, so, and again, there's that how you check kind of.
Well, that's why I say, like I know what, like, just to briefly touch on this, and I know we're going to move on to the next question, but with narcissists and narcissism, they prey on the weak. They literally shoot for the weak woman or the weak man. This can go on both ways.
Yeah.
But they prey on them because they think that they're weak and they, you know, they can manipulate them and control every single move that they make. But in hindsight,
yeah, a lot of it is obviously the physical difference because men tend to be a little bit more violent and more physically aggressive, and
yes.
we have more. I mean, I'm skinny, but I still have more upper body strength than most women do. So if I grab you forcefully, you know, you're going to suffer from that more so than if you were to grab me forcefully.
Yeah.
So and then there's also our society is incredibly patriarchal and always has been, and women, fortunately, the tide is turning thanks to guys like you who do these kind of shows. But women have always, like, if you look at my mom's in her mid-70s. Her generation was like, your function is to, you know, serve the man. You know, you can be a teacher or a nurse or a secretary, but you can't go to college. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. Basically, you're supposed to be a servant. You're a wife, a housemaker, a baby making machine, whatever. So when women are in, you know, religion and Republicans specifically, and in our modern climate, it's Republicans. It was Democrats back in the day, but they also prey on people, typically people who lack critical thinking skills, so they don't realize the falsehood of what's being told. And there's something called, and this is a plague on humanity, it's something called sophistic reasoning, which is reasoning that sounds clever on the surface, but when you look beneath the surface, you see it's not true. So if you look at religious apologists, if you were to point out a religious apologist, I can debunk every single one of their arguments. The reason why not everyone else can is because a lot of what they say sounds kind of good on the surface. It makes sense on the surface. So, but you have to like dig underneath. You really have to analyze what they're saying, and are they using any kind of logical fallacy? Are they basing it on false information? So then you have to know the information. So you have to have both knowledge and logic and apply them both in a way that allows you to either debunk what the person is saying, and once you debunk it, you can move away from it. If you can't debunk it, then you begin, oh, that's true, and then boom, you're next thing you know, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? It's like, and controlling people prey on those who are more likely to be subjugated. You know, and so I'm glad that you brought that up because that's like the other side.
I want to take a step back for one moment. What you mentioned about women and our elders growing up, and that was what they were taught, to be a servant to their man and baby makers. I mean, my family, I mean, that was what my grandmother did. She had babies. She didn't work. Still to this day, she still believes that the woman should not work. And, you know, she should be taking care of her man. I mean, I grew up, you know, learning that you took care of your man regardless of any aspect. I don't know, Lady E, Montana, if you feel the same way. But I had to take a step back, you know, from that because, you do so much for somebody and you never get the same in return. So you have to, find your equal in your spouse or your significant other that is going to give you the same. And because I'll talk to my grandmother, she's like, "You got to do this, Nikki. You got to do that." I'm like, "No, Grandma."
Yeah. Well,
no.
Your grandmother is a product of the generation and the culture she was raised in.
Yeah.
What I teach people is reciprocity. A relationship only works if you're equally exchanging your needs and wants. You have to work together to build a relationship and to make the relationship work. If it's one-sided, because I'm naturally a giver, I'm a people pleaser. It's like I want to make you happy.
Yes.
And this feeds into what we were just talking about. So takers are naturally attracted to me because they see Ryan and he's nice and giving and caring, and then they just start taking. But then eventually it's like, yeah, I have nothing left to give. So if you're not going to reciprocate and give back, this is a one-sided relationship, and then I leave. But we are right now about 70% of our culture is Christian. 20 years ago, it was 90%. Okay, so when you go back, obviously the founding fathers who were the Constitution were certainly not conservative, but the majority of people in this culture have been Judeo-Christians. They are Bible-based Christians. Now, if you read the Old Testament, and you don't even have to read the whole thing, just read the Torah, women are literally property. Fathers sell their daughters to husbands for 50 shekels of silver. Men own their wives and own their sexual rights. Paul in the New Testament, Jesus was a fan of women. Jesus actually stood up for women and defended them against other people. Not Paul, though. If you read 1 Corinthians 2, or 1 Timothy 2, Ephesians 5, Paul literally said, women are lesser than men. That's all there's to it. God made Adam first and women second. You are secondary, but you'll be saved through childbirth. And most Christians aren't really Christians because they don't follow Christ. They follow Paul. They're actually Paulists. They follow what Paul talked about because half of the New Testament was written by Paul. There's only 4 Gospels in which Jesus talks. And then there's like 13 books in which Paul's running his fucking mouth, so I'm not a big fan.
Well, we appreciate that. So I think we're going to move on to the next question. I think we answered it to the best of our ability. Lady E, do you have anything to add to that? Or Montana?
I just wanted to go through our comments that were posted while we were talking.
Yeah, I was going to add something.
Okay, yeah. So after we go through the question or the comments, then Montana, you can go. Unfounded jealousy is a red flag to me. Quick irritability, signs of wanting to isolate me. Yes. Cornell says, sounds like facts. So I think he agrees with what you're saying, Ryan. It can be as subtle as a little comment, but and then she said, oops.
Well, the subtlety, there's actually a process, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. It's called gaslighting.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about that later. Yeah. Let's talk about that later.
Okay. When you get into the subtleties, that's when you really get into that subconscious control.
Talk about that later.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then Scott Keller, hello. Thank you for joining us tonight. Yeah, Tweet, you get sucked in like that for sure. But wait and see if their actions line up with their words. That's key.
But you don't want, if they threaten you, you don't want to wait to see if their actions line up. You want to leave because I am being serious though. If the verbal, and it doesn't even have to be a direct threat. It could be like something like you're driving down the road with this person and you get into an argument. He's like, I'm just going to drive into this fucking median, I'm going to drive into this concrete pole. And, that's a sign of like mentally, like this guy might not be very fit. So you have to look at things like that, which he might not be directly threatening you, but that's not how normal people, behave.
Mm-hmm.
Dojo also says if we're not paying attention, it can creep up on us.
It happens in an
And like Tweet
instant.
said, I think we're going to get to that a little bit later when we talk about the red flags in terms of how behavioral traits reflect certain other behaviors.
Yeah. And then red flags for Scott, he says their exes are all crazy. They love bomb you immediately. And they freak out when you question them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that not taking accountability, and it's everyone else's fault. It's never my fault. That is, like we were talking about, that is definitely malignant narcissism. That is a telltale sign, and I have family members, and I've dated women. I've had friends who are like that, and that to me, and that doesn't mean that they're abusive, but that is not a good. That can be a sign of abuse, but it's certainly not a good sign of a healthy partner. Because again, you want reciprocity. You want someone to admit when they're wrong. You don't want someone who's always going to blame you or blame other people for their downfalls. You want someone who's mature enough to take responsibility in their own lives.
Yeah.
But did you guys want to move on to another question?
What is the next question?
So hold on a second. Quincy says, "Oh, she's looking fancy. I think he's talking about you, Tweet."
No, I might be talking about you.
No. He's talking about you because I was like, yes, she looks gorgeous tonight. I love the top bun, the shirt, love it.
The top bun.
Everything, love it.
Top buns are fun because you can use them as joysticks.
Yeah, I like to get my hair pulled.
That is true. Like you could just maneuver that thing wherever you want it to go. Like awesome. Jojo says, "I grew up that way." Tweet. And then Brandon says, "One-sided never works. Worst feeling is loving someone so much and not getting back the same energy in return."
And it's not everyone has the same love language, so we have to be aware that not everyone shows us love the way we want to. But there is a difference in the way you can recognize when someone's at least trying in their own way versus someone who doesn't give a shit about you and they only care about themselves because they think the world revolves around them and whatever their issues happen to be. So.
And then I think
and that's any relationship. I've been in friendships where after a while, it's like, I had just a female friend, and she would be like, "So, what's new in your life?" And after like halfway through my first sentence, she'd be like, "Yeah, I'm doing this." I'm like, "Well, thanks for talking about me." And she would just start talking about herself, and it's like everything revolved around her constantly. And so eventually, I was like, just I'll get you a mirror, and you can just have a friendship with yourself.
And then we have one more comment, and then we'll get to the next question. But I think this one's for you, Ryan. By the way, we appreciate our guests for joining us tonight. Some great knowledge being shared. Yes.
Thank you, Quincy. I appreciate that.
Okay, really time out. My thing works now. It's my turn.
All right, Montana.
Yes.
Go.
And all this time, I just thought you were rolling your eyes at me.
I was actually for two reasons, my friend. One is control. Men disguise control with protection, and all women want to feel protected. So that's how they start off with. It starts with protection. It leads to eventually down the road, you start seeing what they're doing. That's one of my points I was trying to make. Second one is you said that Republicans lack critical thinking skills. Mm-hmm. You said that?
Well,
I was making sure I was hearing that right.
When I say Republicans, that's not all Republicans.
Okay.
Just like not all. First of all, people compartmentalize. So you could be a genius, but then when it comes to politics, religion, social issues, you turn off your critical thinking in favor of to fulfill some emotional need.
Just making sure, friend.
Yeah, sure. Certainly nothing I say is absolute or applies to everyone. Okay. But when I'm saying Republicans now, I'm talking about the Trump administration.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either, but that's okay. Go ahead. Yeah. Moving on.
We have one more comment towards this. Miguel. Hello, Miguel. Thank you for joining us tonight. He says, a red flag is when they can't stop talking about their ex-boyfriend.
Or
that means they're not over them.
Stop talking about their ex-girlfriend. That works.
Right. They're not over them yet. I totally agree with that. All right. So our next question is, What's the best way to approach your partner if your sexual needs aren't being met?
Okay, well, I mean, obviously, we're presupposing that the direct approach isn't on the table because, it's kind of hard to say you're doing that wrong, do it this way, and then you hurt their feelings, especially if they're men and their fragile little egos that we have. But it is unfortunate, especially when it comes to men, because our society has created the gender roles where the man initiates and pursues and the woman reacts. So then like men are just supposed to like magically know what to do and read your mind, and and so if a woman tries to teach him what she wants, that might offend his delicate sensibilities. So how do we get our partner to do what we want without insulting them or like hurting their ego? Okay, so there's like levels of subtlety. Okay, depending, you have to kind of know your partner and know what's right for them. For me, you would know this if you talk to me and if that I'm a sex educator. For me, I prefer the direct approach, but that's because I'm not sensitive about this.
So
my
what if somebody wasn't so vocal with their like sexual needs or felt uncomfortable with, like, they didn't want to hurt their feelings, or they just didn't feel comfortable about talking about sex, and they're just very like, just not closed-minded, but you know what I'm saying, like just they don't feel like talking about it is just weird to them, but they want to say something, that kind of thing.
okay,
Like, I'm very outspoken, and I'll tell you like it is. If you're not doing something right, then I'm gonna let you know. I don't care about ego, whatever. But some people are just like, they're like, well, how do I tell people, or how do I tell my man that I'm faking, like they're faking it the whole time or something,
mhm. Well, there's several things. One very popular way is demonstration, which is basically you masturbate for your partner. You can even do mutual masturbation where you masturbate and he masturbates, and a lot of people really enjoy watching their partner masturbate. So, but by I know Montana is like crap. But when you masturbate, you are giving your partner a visual demonstration of what you like. And of course, there's also reinforcement. When your partner is doing something that you like, you say, oh, you make you make sure you emphasize that, oh, that's awesome. I love that. Keep doing that. And that's
Yeah.
a way you can kind of get into it without like doing a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, I want you to lick this way and suck this way. If you don't want to, I dated a girl, and when we were being intimate, she would be like if I was performing manual sex, she would be like, can I get 3 fingers? And it felt kind of like the Wheel of Fortune. You know what I mean? It's like, why, yes, Pat. Could I have an S? It's like, why, yes, you can. Here's your third F. Here's your third finger. But and I didn't mind. I just thought it was kind of funny that she phrased it that way. But doing it like that way is a little bit more subtle than talking about it, because when you're talking about it, if you are worried about their ego, then you might want to approach it from the standpoint of,
what about bringing toys into the bedroom?
Well, that would be
I love toys in the bedroom.
Me too, girl. I'm right there with you.
Huge.
Yeah. Well,
like, I would say this. Let me take a step back. I like toys in the bedroom if I'm with a man that I think is not really getting to where he needs to be.
Yeah.
I would advocate for that. But if I have a man that's in the bedroom doing what he absolutely needs, what he is doing to get me to where I need to be, then toys not. I mean, that is just a part of the game or the pleasure. But Go ahead.
So what if you were like, so what you're saying, Tweet, is like if you're in the middle of it and you're not feeling it, or he's not doing what you like, he's not getting you there, and you're like, hey, let me grab my vibrator or whatever, or you just reach in and grab it and like start,
I'll bring it in both instances.
Right. So,
but and I would play that the toy card a lot harder than I would if he's not getting me where I need to be.
But a lot of men would,
like, I'll use it just as
a lot of men would be hurt by that though. If they're actually having sex with you and you bring in a toy like right in the middle, it's different if that's already like part of your dynamic and that's expected. But if you're having sex with them and then you bring in a toy, you're telling him that what he's doing is inadequate. So you're going to make him feel inadequate. But that's kind of like, if you broach the subject, you let the person know that they can't. You understand that they can't read your mind, and not every woman is the same. So no matter how much you enjoy sleeping with them, you want it to be better for both of you. Ask him what he would like you to do. Honey, is there anything I can do for you that you would like, or anything I can do different? And then hopefully he'll respond by saying, what about you? Is there anything I can do different?
yeah.
And again, bringing the toys in, I think would be a good way. I would preface it though. I would, be like, I really like to use toys. I think they're fun. And then that way it doesn't like make him feel inadequate, because if he's fucking you and you reach over and grab your vibrator, it's like, well, shit, my dick's not enough for you. That's what he's going to think.
Okay,
So I would,
that was like my thing is like, some guys, if I do that during whatever, and I don't know if the guy is like offended by it, or they're like, oh yeah, let's do this, or whatever. Like, I'm confused about that.
Well, I think you have to know, like me, I love using toys, and I like to perform edging.
What is edging?
Wait,
I don't know if I've ever heard that.
Edging.
No. Explain that.
Edging means that I'm going to stimulate you almost to the point of orgasm and then stop.
Oh no!
And then yes.
No.
And I'm gonna let you cool down, and then I'm gonna stimulate you to the point of orgasm again, and then stop.
Oh.
So then, when you do have an orgasm, it's gonna be much more powerful.
Oh.
You know what?
Yeah. Now you're interested.
I kind of like got into that more recently. I mean, by myself, obviously, but I mean, I kind of like started doing like figuring things out for myself a little bit more, But yeah, edging. I mean, at first I'm like, that's fucked up. Like, that's just wrong. Don't do that to me. It like, no, But then if you experiment it with yourself first before doing with the guy, I think it's a lot more pleasurable.
And it also depends on how easily you reach orgasm. If you're like a hard comer, then no, edging's not for you, because it takes you so long to get to that point to begin with. You certainly don't want to have to take another half hour. But like one girl I dated, every time we had sex, she would have like 15 or 20 orgasms to every one of them.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
What the fuck?
What?
Yeah. I mean,
I wish I got like one or two during sex.
So
Yes.
we, it was
not natural.
It was a combination of her being, she orgasmed very easily. But I do know a little bit about what I'm doing, and then we were compatible. So with her, it was very easy to do edging. I mean, I grabbed, we played with toys all the time. I really loved the magic wand, that was a lot of fun. So
what is the magic wand? Where am I missing all these amazing
Oh my God, girl.
A magic wand.
I'm having a sex toy party at my house next Saturday. So
What?
yes.
I want to come.
That's the vibrator that has the shaft and then like the rounded head.
Oh.
That's a magic wand. There's other names for it, of course, but
Wait, hold
now
on. Before you go deeper, we have a lot of comments coming in.
Let's go to the
A lot.
comments. Yes.
So Jojo says, easy, tackle it at the moment and say something. Ouch, no, wait, slow down a little faster, Poppy. Let's normalize speaking up as women. Yes, we should normalize that. Cornell says, facts. I use that during head. I guess I think he's talking about toys that he uses. Miguel says, I actually want to hear your guys' opinions, especially the women. Why is it so hard to ask a woman if she is satisfied? And then Quincy says, what did I just hear?
I don't know. Like what
You're gonna hear a lot of shit on this show, so you better stay tuned for the whole show. He says, yeah, I'm feeling some type of way if you feel the need to use a toy.
that's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. I know some guys get a little offended by it.
Let me put it to you this way. If we were about to have sex and you took your clothes off and then I turned on the internet and looked at some porn, how would that make you feel? That I needed to look at another woman after you just took your clothes off?
That's true.
So if we're having sex and you suddenly pull out a toy, it's like, well, that's why I said that you need to bring toys in a way where he already knows that you're both going to be using them. But it is a good way that's masturbation. I mean, that's a part of masturbation. It's a good way to teach your man. But, if you put a magic wand on your clit and it starts vibrating, he doesn't vibrate. So
I will say the one thing with vibrators and women using vibrators, like if you're a single woman or you're a married woman and you may not be getting sex like you normally would, using a vibrator makes it much more difficult to get off by having actual sexual intercourse with your man or someone else. It makes it that much harder. Because you are not getting that same vibration. You're not getting that same sucking feeling from your significant other or whoever you're with at that time. It makes it that much harder to get off. And I will say this, for women, our brains are on like 1,000. So for the men who are saying like, oh, why can't I get you off, or why aren't you getting off? Like, it's not that we're not in the moment and not enjoying what is going on. It's just that there are 1,000 things going on in our brain that we're trying to focus on what's going on. And actually, we are enjoying it, but it's just for us to get off on that level is so much harder. It's much easier for men to get off than it is for women.
That is a whole that digresses into a whole other conversation about how women can orgasm.
We could get into that another day.
Yeah.
But I just want to
going back
to the like, oh, you're not getting off. I'm like, I am enjoying our moment. I am literally immense with what's going on, but I got 40 other things on my brain. I'm trying to fully focus on what's going on, but
to get back to something that Lady E was talking about, if you're not, another idea, a suggestion, if you don't want to verbally tell the man, there's a fun little game that you can play where you both watch a porn movie and then you reenact what they're doing on the porn movie.
I love porn.
So yeah, what you might do is,
suggestion.
especially if you're trying to teach your man without hurting his ego, you watch the porn first and you find a scene where maybe the guy's eating pussy the way that you want yours eaten, and then when you watch it with your man, you're like, oh, that's so hot, look at the way he's eating that pussy, or you start rubbing yourself, you start getting turned on. And this is a way of kind of again, it's demonstrating to him how to do it without directly saying, go in circles, go in circles. You know what I mean? It's like, because I agree with
this way, not that way.
yeah, I agree with what Joe is saying in the sense that, again, for me personally, but you would know this before we had sex. You would know that I'm okay with this. I don't really have one night stands. I talk about sex with women before I actually sleep with them. Imagine that. But so you would know that you could tell me, right or left, harder, slower, faster, whatever, and I would welcome the instruction. As long as you're not like dictating everything all the time, and I get to like have my own fun with you and kind of like explore and experiment my own way. But it can sometimes ruin the moment for us when we're performing and a woman is like kind of like telling us what to do, like, you know stop, let me kind of do my own thing, let me operate under my own power a little bit. And if you like circles, that's great. I'll get to the circles in a minute, but right now I want to lick up and down. Okay, let me so
Let's get into some comments and maybe possibly move on to the next question.
yeah, like Joe said, you don't just bring out a toy without previous conversation.
Got it.
Yeah, right. And then she also says she likes edging.
Edgy.
And then hold on, I lost.
Where is Montana? Was it the sex thing that she bowed out of, or?
I don't. Maybe she's having technical difficulties with her Wi-Fi. Oh my god, I just lost our comments. Okay, here it goes. Mike says that's called tantra.
What's called tantra?
I guess bringing toys out, or
I think he probably means edging, because the idea of edging is that you can. I mean, the idea of tantra is, well, tantra is a really big subject. Again, that's like you could write a whole book on that. Well, people do write whole books on that actually. But part of tantra is prolonging the sexual experience without climax, because when you climax, then there's no more sexual experience, especially if you're a guy. So the idea is to prolong the orgasm, or to prolong the sensation leading up to the orgasm without having the orgasm, especially for a man. If you're a woman and you're a multi-orgasmic woman, then edging has a slightly different role, because you can just continue to give her orgasms, or you can do the edging, and it can take you to a different space emotionally. There's also involved in tantra, there's what they call a total body or full body orgasm, which is based on a breathing technique. And again, you can also learn, if you're a man, how to separate orgasm from ejaculation. I don't recommend it.
So much.
Wow. Okay, that's like another whole
Right, you're gonna have
show.
to come back on like
Damn.
multiple occasions, because we
For
are
real. Like, wow, you have like, oh yeah, that's like another whole show topic.
Well, tantra was originally Hindu, and it was practiced by Hindus. And the whole idea was you had Shiva and Shakti, who are a female and female god and goddess. And so the idea was that you draw your energy up through your chakras and out into the universe to connect with Shiva and Shakti. So you and your partner become one, but not just one with each other. You become one with the universe, or one with the god and goddess. So then when you get to the West, you take away the Hindu religion, and like now we're just connecting on a physical and emotional level as one, and we're binding energies and our chakras. Now you take away the metaphysics of it, and you take away the whole chakra, kundalini energy, as it's called. You take that away, and now there's exercises that you can do with your partner that simply bring you closer together, and they don't start off as sexual. They're other kind of exercises that you do, and then you work your way up to sexual. But what they do is they do help you bond and become more intimate with your partner. before you actually get into the sexual aspect.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me get into these comments. We have a lot of comments coming in, like a lot. Raj.
Hi, Raj.
Hello.
Raj.
Quincy says exactly. I think these were like, well, Quincy, if you feel some type of way about toys, you surely don't understand anatomy and women anatomy and how we are different. That was JoJo's comment to Quincy. Brandon says, I like using toys on women or watching them use them in front of me. I'm pretty experimental. Okay, some guys are, some guys aren't. Some guys get offended. Quincy is very interested in what we have to say.
How did I get here?
How did I get here? Well, you know what? Buckle your seatbelt.
Here you are. So
you're here. Jojo says most men learn about sex from porn. So they think that penetration should be enough. Nobody. Our bodies work different. And yes, I totally agree with that.
I do agree with the fact that penetrative sex is not for men, that can be enough, but for women that is certainly not the end all be all. But I take exception. It depends on what kind of porn you watch. But in porn, a lot of porn does have a kind of a specific routine where they start by using hands and then mouths and then they go into intercourse. So there is actually a lot more in porn than we give it credit for. One of the biggest problems of porn is that people don't orgasm on cue. They don't orgasm together all the time. You can't just like snap your fingers and the woman's aroused. So it's like a very idealized form of sexuality. But and one of the things that porn, it's good and bad. But like if you look at cunnilingus in porn, in order to show the cunnilingus properly, or to show it fully, the guy oftentimes takes his mouth off of the woman. He's just using his tongue. Now, some women like that, but I it's important to know that to French kiss the clitoris as well. So you cup your lips around and use the tongue, so you're creating a greater amount of sensation.
Yep.
Now, sometimes when you watch porn, you will see that. But the problem with that is the man's mouth and face is obscuring her pussy, so then the camera can't see her. So then he has to like tilt his head back, so his tongue's always like, and it's like he's like a fish flopping on the water. When in reality,
I love to watch you down on me, just like a man would love you watching him or you suck his dick. I thoroughly enjoy watching you eat my pussy to the full extent.
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine.
We're getting there, and then I'll just put my head back and enjoy the rest of it.
I was talking to a friend of mine recently. We were in the gym, and this woman walks in, and she has like massive legs, and I'm an ass man, so I like big butts. But she had. That's why I'm so honest. But I told her, I'm like, she's like, you like those big legs. I'm like, yeah, thick thighs save lives, right? But I told her one of the things that I like about it is that when I'm going down on a woman, it's very comforting to have her soft, thick thighs on either side of my head. It's a very pleasurable and comforting sensation.
Who wants a twig for a leg and an ass? Nobody.
And it's also the same when you're doing it from behind. I like taking her butt and like wrapping my face with her butt. It's like a butt taco.
I love it. Oh my god.
But there's nothing wrong if a woman has no butt or thin legs. There is.
Oops, somebody's phone's ringing.
I don't think it's mine.
It's yours?
I don't think it's mine.
Oh, maybe it's Lady Eve's. I don't think it's mine. Somebody's trying to call somebody.
Sorry.
You're so popular.
What's going on?
How do you make
How
do you make time for us, cousin?
So let's see here. So that was a great topic. I loved it.
Sorry.
Do you have any more questions?
Okay, so
Or responses, rather, comments.
So Brandon says, watching porn and reacting is awesome. I love role playing. It spices shit up. And then we have Quincy's comment. Every woman is different and each man is different. If I'm not doing it for you, then communicate, instruct me. Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yes.
And for some men, the communication needs to be a little bit more subtle and a little bit more, and asking a question, like I kind of mentioned one of my exes, asking, sweetie, can you try going in circles? That might be better than saying go in circles, whereby another guy might be turned on by being commanded, if he's like naturally submissive. So yeah, this is like, you have to know your partner's boundaries and sensitivity level. And I personally would prefer, you just ask me, or I'll judge by your reaction. And if the man, hopefully, ideally, will learn from your reaction, like he knows when he hits the spot,
I was
because
just gonna say,
you're
like,
acting like he's in the
I
spot.
think a man or a woman, vice versa, like, we know we should be in tune with our partner's body and what is good and what is not. And they should know what you're feeling and what you're not. And if you're not, then it is what it is. And then that's when you should, I wouldn't say correct it, but make your opinions known.
Well, you know the joke that women remember everything in a relationship. They never forget anything. Like 30 years later, you remember Tuesday, March the 2nd, when you said that other girl was pretty.
I remember you didn't lick my clit right that day.
Right. That use that for the WAP. I like that. French kiss the WAP. But use that memory to the positive in this sense, because you can say, and again, this is a way of teaching him without hurting his feelings. Like, you remember that time when he went down on you and he did it well. So like, and he may not have even done it, but if you just say that he did it, he might be like, okay, maybe I did it. It's like, do what you did before, where you went in circle. I'm just using go in circles as a example. Remember, oh, that was so hot when you went in circles, do that again. And that's letting him know that, oh, he's not doing it wrong because he's already done it right before. And you remember that he was doing it right. So now you're just reminding him to do it right, to do it that way again. So you're not teaching him, you're just saying, hey, do it that way again, because I really liked it when you did it the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. Lady E walked away. Sorry, I spit. But yeah, I was telling.
We gotta move past the butt taco, because that's all anybody is talking right now.
Well, I was telling.
Question, Lady E.
Oh my God.
I was gonna tell her where the butt taco came from, because she walked away when I said that. So I was gonna tell her.
That's all the comments we're getting right now are butt tacos.
Okay. All right, moving on. I'll tell you later when we talk about anal sex.
Oh.
Woo! Yeah, stay tuned for that. We'll definitely be talking about that.
All right, third question.
All right, let's see.
I think we kind of just really touched on that. Oh yeah, I was okay.
Yeah. No, that was the whole question.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, how can a person get out of the friend zone?
Well, again, this presupposes that the direct approach is out of the question, because if I were to say to my friend, hey, will you want to go on a date with me? And she says no, well, then it's awkward and uncomfortable and you break the friendship. So I think the real question is, like, how can I do it in a way that doesn't ruin the friendship? So again, we're talking about levels of subtlety here. For me, because I communicate well verbally, if I was trying to get out of the friend zone, the way I would approach my friend would be like, I'm going to use the name Mary. Hey, Mary, have you ever thought about going out? Do you think that good friends make good partners? I mean, has it ever have you ever just maybe thought about what it would be like if we went out, or if we were together or something? And by creating it in an abstract form, what I'm doing is I'm creating a bubble where she can kind of feel comfortable, because hey, it's natural when if you've been friends to think about it, right? Would we owe it to at least to ourselves to at least give it a try, and because we wouldn't want to like regret it, if we never at least tried it.
But also, wouldn't you like, wouldn't you be afraid of like messing up the friendship or ruining it if you were like, let's give it a try?
Well, that's what I'm saying is if it were me, I would pose it as a question to her if she would be interested, like if she's ever thought about it or considered it, would she be interested in maybe just giving it a try? And if she says, well, I don't really look at you that way, and I say, okay, I'm just a little curious because, I don't know if you've ever thought about it unless I ask you, and I don't want to wake up one day 6 months from now and have you say, how come you never asked me out? I liked you all that time. We were friends and you never asked me out. So the only way I can know is to ask you. So see, this way, I'm kind of going out on a limb, but not so far out on that limb. So this way, if you say no, I'll be like, okay, I was just curious. I just want to know where your head was at and what you were thinking regarding that issue. Because it can kind of, if it comes up, I don't want it, if the issue ever came up, I don't want it to make us uncomfortable because we've already discussed it, So you can, if you approach it in the abstract like that, then it's not quite as risky as making things awkward or making it, or like risking that I'm really interested in you and then you reject me and then we both feel like douchebags. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Another approach is to, again, subtly use a little bit more well, we're presupposing that you're friends with the person first, and you feel like you might want more from that person, but you don't know how they feel. So if you want to pursue your friend romantically, I'm responding to Miguel's comment. If you want to pursue your friend romantically, how do you broach the topic without jeopardizing your friendship? And that's where I'm coming from. So yes, friendship and relationships are good. You want to be, ideally, you want to be best friends with your lover if you can, or at least very close friends. But another way is to use some physical contact and see how she responds, or if you're a woman, use physical contact and see how the man responds. But I don't mean sexual. What I mean is, let's say I'm walking with my friend Mary through the park, and Mary makes a joke. I might laugh and then just put my hand on her back for just a couple of seconds and say, "You're so funny." And I want to see how she reacts to me touching her back when I don't normally do that. It's not an aggressive, it's not sexual. I'm simply touching her. I have a lot of female friends. I always have, and a lot of them are Latin, and Latin cultures are a little more touchy than most American. Most like
more possessive.
Yeah.
but like I had like my female friends who are like Puerto Rican. They'll do that thing where they'll like like they'll like do this with their hand and they'll like touch my arm when they're laughing. And it would be very easy for me to confuse that contact with flirtation, but I know that they're not actually flirting. That's just their cultural way of expression.
Right.
So, but if it's not part of your friendship dynamic to be very touchy-feely, then a gentle touch here and there in a non-aggressive, non-sexual way might kind of let you see how they judge when you are getting a little more intimate with them. Again, if she is upset and she's crying on my shoulder and I'm hugging her, I might kiss her on the forehead, for example. I'm not going to move in and try to like lick her mouth or anything. I'm just going to kiss her on the forehead because it's a loving, friendly gesture. How does she respond to that? Does she respond positively to the physical affection or negatively, or indifferently? So you kind of in a few days later, you might try, a different form, where maybe like I said before, I put my hand on her back or something, and she might start touching you more, or you don't know.
You kind of like, you just feel it out, like with a simple little gesture on the hand on the back, and you fill out her response to it. Like if she's like, "What are you doing?" and she like backs away, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like you don't touch me like this." Like, you know, that kind of thing. Like, okay, then you know, nothing further is going to happen or whatever.
Right. That's exactly right. That's like a flashing neon sign. It's like, there's a strict border. There's strict boundary, and she has drawn these strict boundaries in the sand, and you shouldn't cross those boundaries. Now, by the same token, let's say we're just having a good old time chatting, and we're standing side by side, and maybe I put my arm around her shoulder, and I kissed her just like on the side of the head, and I say, "You're so awesome." If she puts her arm around my waist, that to me tells her that she is a little more comfortable being physical. If she's kind of indifferent, that doesn't tell me much, but it kind of leads toward the negative. If she doesn't respond positively, I'm going to take that as kind of a negative. And then but this is the physical form of the verbal approach, where you're being subtle, you're being kind of abstract, you're not rushing right into putting the moves on her, like Lady E said. You're just kind of like feeling it out, because you might also realize, and I actually did this. That'll be $300, and no, your insurance doesn't cover it. There was this girl that I was friends with. Now, she had a boyfriend, and I knew her boyfriend, because we went, and I never, if a girl is involved in a man, it's actually easier for me, because that's like no fly zone. I can just be friends with her, and she's like, I wouldn't mess with her at all. But I can still be, like, objectively speaking, I can still be attracted to her. And this girl, I was really attracted to her, and we really got along. We had great conversations. We were very intellectually in tune with each other, and that's a big thing for me, because I'm very attracted to intelligent women. And I thought, man, if she wasn't like virtually married to this guy, I would be all up in her shit. You know what I'm saying? But then one day, and we never had any kind of like physical connection. It was always just talking.
Mm-hmm.
But then one day we hugged. And did you see the movie Step Brothers?
Yes.
Where the two real brothers
Brendan,
where they hugged each other, and it was like they were like
they were all weird.
Yeah, it was like the most awkward hug in the history of the universe.
Yes.
This is like when we hugged, I felt like that was the most awkward. Wow. And that suddenly made me realize that maybe, as much as I'm attracted to her physically and intellectually, maybe there's no real chemistry, because we just hugged in such a weird. And for two people, that's to be expected if you just met. But for two people who have talked for like hours, like in person, we're like on the treadmills walking next to each other for like an hour talking, and you're like, I should have gone home half an hour ago, but you enjoy the conversation so much. And then when you hug, and it's like, are you my sister? No. You're a completely different ethnicity. How are you my sister? But you feel like my sister when we hug. So it can actually work in that sense, where you might think you like the person, and then when you start getting physical, you're like, maybe I do just like you as a friend, and I think you're hot at the same time, but that's like it, because you can. It's easy to sexualize someone but not actually want to be with them, It's like, you're hot, but you're an asshole, so I don't really want to be with you,
Right, exactly. But we have a question for myself and Tweet from our viewers. Miguel says, I got a question for the two beautiful ladies. I was told that women determine the moment they meet you if you're going in the friend zone. Is that true?
100% correct on my end.
Yep. And I completely agree with that. From the moment that we meet you, we can tell whether you're going in the friend zone or there's something more there that we are intrigued by.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the way you approached us. Maybe it's just you talking about yourself from the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, the first minutes that we meet you. Like, yes, I can get along with this person. I can see myself hanging out with this person. But as far as like being anything more than that, maybe they lack certain qualities that we want in a man. That, I mean, we're not seeing. Maybe we're not seeing it right from the get-go, which is possible. And then maybe later on down the road, like we'll get to know you a little bit better and we'll see like, okay, maybe this friend zone thing is not what I thought it was. It just depends on the situation, the guy, what the woman is actually looking for, and what she's looking for in her life at that moment, because women, they change up what they're looking for all the time. So, women who get out of a long relationship, of course, they're going to look for nothing serious, or maybe they've been single for a very, very long time and they're looking for something serious. So, I mean, for me, if it was just to me, when I first meet somebody, I automatically put them in the friend zone just because I want to spend that time with them to build a friendship with them first and make sure that, we can be friends. We can talk about certain things. You're not going to be judgmental or whatever. I want to see what you're about. I want to see if you're into the same things that I'm into, that kind of thing. So,
but I think that comes along with conversation.
But just being in the friend zone, like right and from the get-go, does not mean later on you're not gonna get out of the friend zone. It just means like I want to see more of you. I want to get to know you a little bit more. I want to see like how much of a friend you are, or how much I can tell you and confide in you to be that type of friend, or to build something more than just friendship.
I will say mine is based on energy.
Yeah.
If I feel your energy and our energy matches, then I could take it to a different place and see where it's going to go. But if our energy is completely off and we're not on the same wavelength or what have you, whatever you want to call it, but I literally base everything I do off of energy. If you're giving me the energy, I'm giving it back to you. If you don't give it to me, I am not giving it to you. If you have nothing to say, I don't have anything to say either. Like, our energies need to be intertwined in order for us to be in the least bit compatible in whatever it is. So if our energy is completely instantaneous and I feel it, I'm running with it, and I'm gonna see what happens, and we'll go from there. But if it's not, then I will keep you in the friend zone, and that's where it'll be. And then eventually, it's gonna drop off, and that's it. But if our energy is somewhere that I think that has potential to be, then sexually, physically, emotionally, every type of energy, like I literally feel all of it. So,
but I think that can feed into what Lady E was saying, whereby when you first meet, your energy might not be compatible, but a year later, you're in different circumstances, a different frame of mind. Both of you have gone through changes. You've grown. You've had experiences that have altered your perspective, and you might have compatible energies.
yes.
And if you're a guy and you are friends with a girl, that was actually going to be my other tip was, you want to spend as much time, and it goes both ways. If you're a girl trying to get, but for a girl, it's easy. If you want to get out of the friend zone, just take your clothes off and the guy will be like, okay, So, but if you're a guy and you're trying to get out of the friend zone, spend as much time with her as possible, because it's the time that you spend with her that's going to yield opportunity. It's going to yield time and opportunity for her to see your personality and your character, and as Tweet put it, your energy from different perspectives over in different situations over a period of time. Because
I wanna step in here really quickly because I do agree with what you're saying, but I also disagree. I have had men in my life literally in a friend zone and do everything in their power to try to get my attention, buy me things, do whatever they take me on vacation, whatever. They never got out of the friend zone, but they did everything that they thought that they needed to, but it never was there. But I took advantage of that situation in a lot of aspects and just rode with it. But what you're saying, like I get it. Things might change in a year, or your energy might change in a year. But I think as soon as you meet that person, you know instantly whether they are going to be somebody that you want to continue to engage with or you don't.
And I think
And that's
I
just
think
me personally.
well, I think what you're saying is true. There are no absolutes. So if you're a guy and you get put in the friend zone, you have a choice. You can either pursue a friendship with this person, and if that friend, and I've had this happen to me before. I didn't want, and I talked about this before. I didn't want to be in a relationship with that woman, but the friendship itself became toxic. So I abandoned the friendship. So it's like, even if you're attracted to her and you want to pursue a romantic relationship with her, but she's, and
disconnected.
I'm overly simplifying it because this is an intellectual answer and not an emotional response. But the bottom line is, when you're in a relationship, you work together to make the relationship better. That person should make you feel better, not worse. You should move forward, not backwards. So if I'm friends with a girl, even if I want to get out of the friend zone, if being in the friend zone is hurting me, then I need to step away from that relationship because it's becoming toxic to me that I can't get out of the friend zone. So then it's like that situation is, so I have to evaluate my own self-worth and say, I'm being hurt by this relationship. It's nothing against her, but I need to step away because if you're not compatible, it's like unrequited love. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you need to step away and stop stop torturing yourself.
Got it. All right,
So,
ladies,
wait,
let's get some comments.
hold
And
on. We have, we have this one question comment from Facebook user, and I really wish I knew who you were, Facebook user. So if you go to the top, click the link for accept the StreamYard terms, so we can actually see who is commenting on here. He says he or she says the easiest way to get out of the friend zone is to make her think that she's in the friend zone. Be nonchalant and hang out with the new women. If she gets jealous, you can ask if she wants to be more than just friends. Oh, what do you think about that, Ryan? Because I don't agree with that.
No, I don't either.
I agree with what you two ladies said in the very beginning, which is, if that guy approaches you, you know whether you're going to diddle him. Like, as soon as you see him, as soon as he opens his mouth, you know within the first 2 minutes whether you want to sleep with him. So if he puts you in the friend zone, you don't care because you've in your mind you've already put him in the friend zone. He just doesn't realize it.
Right.
Having said that, the technique. This is like the classic technique of, I mean, he didn't say this. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we hear this a lot of time in like misogynistic scenes and movies. If you treat the girl like shit, she'll like you more. Okay, so this is kind of that same idea, but you have to like this. That method presupposes that the girl likes you to begin with. So if you already like me, if you're already attracted to me, and I play hard to get, you might become more attracted to me, or you might be repulsed by that because it's like, no, you want me to want you. And if I push you away, you're gonna go away. So women can respond in both ways.
I will say exactly what you just said. I feel like if you push too much, I am going to push back even further.
Right. Now, see, I don't like that.
I don't. It might be the same way with men. I guess it is, but like,
Well,
I'm not
no,
a pusher or whatever. I don't want you to push on me and put me in a position where I'm feeling uncomfortable, or you're trying to take it to a place where I don't think that we are anywhere near. So
I'm not a hunter. I'm not a predator. If I approach a woman and she likes me, I want her to let me know that she likes me. I don't want her to play hard to get, because if she plays hard to get, I'm going to be like, I'm out, because I'm not going to pursue. I pursue if I know that you're interested, and then I'll take the kind of stereotypical male role where I ask you out and I text you after the date, and I'll do that, but I have to know that you're romantically interested in me.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you push me away, I'm just gonna naturally assume, okay, friend zone it is. That's fine. So I think that the woman already has to.
They use that to their benefit, like for the men, like they're trying. They know that the man is trying to get their attention, so they use that to their advantage and get what they want and continue that. I have been there and done that. So, I mean.
But a lot of times women will play into the man. The woman she'll be like, oh, stop. And the man's like, oh, she wants me, So if the woman teases the man into thinking that there's a possibility that he might get sex, then he will continue to pursue. And if she plays hard to get.
I mean, sex isn't even on the table at this point. You want my attention, you want my time. You're gonna have to pay for my time. I mean, and this is from the perspective of the friend zone. Like, I've already put you in the friend zone, so now this is terrible, but I'm going to take advantage of you at this point in time. So this might be not every woman, and I have grown past that, but in my 20s, I'm almost 40 now, but in my 20s, I took advantage of that. Right. I have no sexual connection to you. I have no romantic connection to you, but you obviously have it on me. So I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity and get whatever I can get out of you.
And a lot of women
sexually, but you're going to keep giving me whatever I want.
A lot of women have the adverse response. If they know you're interested, they purposefully keep you away, not because they're being rude, but because they don't want to lead you on and cause rejection or drama or anything like that. So there's no absolutes, but I'm to me personally, and what I would advise people is I hate dating games. Dating games are not good. They're a sign of a lack of relationship maturity.
I mean, I wouldn't do that now.
Yeah, exactly.
That was in my 20s. I learned and have grown above that. But
so
Brandon is asking how much, Tweet. Gucci bags, diamonds, vacations, car payment, rent payments, you name it.
Well, there's a very very famous. If you watch tennis or women's tennis. If you know who Steffi Graf is, she's like one of the all-time great female tennis players. She was actually on court about to serve, and in tennis they're quiet, like golf. And then as she's about to serve, some guy in the crowd yells out, "Steffi, will you marry me?" And everyone gets a good laugh, and she thinks about it, and she turns up to the stand and goes, "How much money do you have?" And then of course everyone really laughed. Now she's already a multimillionaire, so she's probably got more money than him. But should we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I just want to say Carlos was our Facebook user.
Hi, Carlos.
Hi, Carlos.
And then he also said, make her think she's in the friend zone. That was the one that was like, the easiest way to get out of the friend zone, make her jealous. That kind of thing.
But she has already put you in the friend zone before you've reached that point. So.
Yeah. Right. And then Miguel says she agrees with me. When you meet the person, you already know if they're going to be in the friend zone. Yes. So we already made that decision in our heads. I mean, it could change later on in the future, but at that moment,
highly.
Right. Highly doubt it, but it's possible. But still, Brand says, well, you missed that ride with Jada Kiss's brother or
Oh,
whatever.
yes. Oh, it wasn't Jada Kiss's brother. It was an entourage, and I was highly offended. I was
So
glad I got to kiss.
our next question of the night is, what is squirting and can it be taught? I love this question right now.
Okay.
Please, Ryan, please. Let's go. Our viewers and
our viewers need to know. Oh, okay. Wait. We have another comment from Matthew. Hey, Matthew. That's playing games, trying to fool anyone into feeling you. Okay. I think he's talking about Carlos's comment, playing games to see if someone's feeling you. Like, oh, try to make her jealous or whatever, which I totally agree with that. That's just game playing, and a lot of women will catch on to that. They may not verbally say it or let you know that they know what you're doing, but they know. Like, they know exactly that what you're trying to do, and that's a huge, it's a huge turn off. Okay. So if you're playing those games with females, like, oh, let me introduce you to all these other females that want me to try to make me jealous, I'm just going to be like, look, bye. Go get those other females because they obviously want you. I'm not trying to be a part of that. Go ahead and do your thing.
Well, there is logic in there's truth in what he said, in the sense that we generally want people who are already wanted because it makes them look desirable. But
yeah,
it has to be done organically.
Right.
Like if me and Lady E go to Publix and we're just hanging out as friends and we're chatting, and I run into this other girl just out of the blue. I run into this other girl and she's all like flirty with me. Lady E might be like, huh, I wonder what she sees in him that I'm not seeing. Maybe there is something more to him if this really attractive girl seems so interested in him. But that's an organic situation where she's realizing that other people do want me. Some people view me as more than a friend, and that makes me look more desirable. But it doesn't work if I'm going to be all like, oh, hey, let's go to the store, and we end up at like my groupie's house, and my groupies are like, oh, Ryan, because then she's got to smell that bullshit, but from a mile away. And she's it's not only gonna turn her off romantically, it's gonna turn her off from being my friend, I think, a little bit too. It's like that was a real douchebag move,
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to the squirting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be right back, but I'm listening. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you're good.
Where's Montana? I feel like I offended Montana. I feel bad.
No, she's having some technical difficulties with her internet, so she's good.
She's watching us, but she's
Okay, but like I told you, I don't have much of a filter, and sometimes things that I say can offend people, and
no, it's not you. Don't worry, it's not you. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, so squirting. Okay.
Squirting.
So I'm gonna get medical here. I'm gonna talk about the anatomical aspect of what squirting is, and then we'll get into how you can do it, how you can teach it or achieve it or practice it if you're a woman. Okay, so squirting is better known as female ejaculation. So just like men, when men ejaculate, some squirt and some dribble. The same is true of women. So first of all, let's get that out of the way. Not all women squirt in the literal sense where the prosthetic fluid projects out of their urethra. It doesn't always project. Sometimes it just runs out. It just dribbles out. And it can be a teaspoon, or it can be like, I'm in a wet t-shirt contest, so it depends on the woman. So basically what is happening on an anatomical level is the woman's urethra, which is the tube that she urinates out of. So here's the woman's vagina, and the vagina. I'm gonna have to digress or go back a little bit. There is a really, really bad habit of people in our society referring to the pussy as the vagina. The pussy is not the vagina. The vagina is the internal canal only. It is the birth canal. The exterior part of the genitalia is collectively known as the vulva. So the clitoris, and actually it's just the clitoral head, the clitoral hood, the labia majora, labia minora, the meatus and troitus. All of these external components of the female sexual reproductive system that are on the outside are collectively known as the vulva. In old school, it was the pudendum, but we usually call it vulva now. So I don't want anyone to be confused. When I say vagina, because we're getting very anatomical here. When I say vagina, it's the internal canal only. Okay. Now, so this is the vagina. Right above the vagina is the urethra, like this. So the urethra is a separate tube that is right above the vagina, and they're not there. There is tissue separating them. The vaginal wall separates them. Okay, so there is tissue. But if you ever, I was extremely fortunate enough that my high school girlfriend and I were very experimental, and I was like, let me watch, because a lot of men think that women urinate out of their vaginas, and they don't. It's a separate tube. So,
Well, in some instances, people think that squirting is women urinating.
right. Okay, I'll get to that in a second.
That is not the case.
That is not true. That is not the case. I'll get that out in a second.
Yes, that's what I thought too.
Women do not urinate out of their vaginas. This is something that
but that's the sensation that some people think that they feel, is that they're urinating.
Well, my what I'm getting at is, I was very fortunate because when I was in high school, my girlfriend at that time, she let me get up close and personal and watch her pee, so I could the external opening of the vagina is called the introitus. Right above that is a smaller hole called the meatus, which is the pee hole, and it's called the same for it's for men and women. The urethral external hole is called the meatus. Okay. It sits inside the vestibule, what's called the pudendal vestibule.
I feel like you know so much more about the female anatomy than than Lee and I do right now.
I know.
I feel like I'm
all
right
this
now.
Down here, like.
I'm like, what?
I
apologize, Ryan. I didn't want to.
No, go ahead.
But I'm like, what? I didn't even know that's what it was called.
It also depends on how the labial folds work, how big the labia, the pussy lips, how big they are, how much they cover. Yeah, but a lot of the viewers don't know.
I would think most viewers like big pussy lips, not big, but fat. I should say fat.
Fat or like.
But if your labia minora are very if they protrude and they ruffle a lot, then they can you have to manually separate them with your hands to see the meatus and to see, because it is small and it is kind of recessed. Okay.
R. Kelly's in the house. I'm sorry.
Really? I can only imagine who that was.
Yes. I'm sorry, Ryan. Proceed. Okay. You can ignore us. Yeah. We're just reading some comments.
Okay, I see it. So surrounding the urethra is what's called the urethral sponge, and it's just a bunch of tissue, but it's filled with glands. Okay. When a woman is stimulated, usually you have to start. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Usually it's best to start with whatever stimulates her. For 70% of women, that would be clitoral stimulation, but whatever floats your boat. Mm-hmm. So you want to arouse the woman. As the woman gets aroused, those glands secrete prostatic fluids. The sponge surrounding the urethra fills up, and the fluid seeps into the urethra. Okay. This is not urine. And the reason we know this is because a main component of urine is urea. And when they've done tests on female ejaculate, it contains very, very small traces of urea. So that would be whatever urine is already in her urethra.
All right. So how do women do it?
Okay,
That's
straight
what we need to know.
Okay, wait. Let me say something real quick. Okay, it happened to me one time, and I never thought that I was like I could possibly do it. But when it happened, I didn't even know that it happened. That kind of thing. Or I didn't feel anything different. So that was like weird to me. Like it's unexplainable. So I don't know what your opinion on this is, Ryan.
Well, I'm doing this I'm doing this in sequence on purpose. So let me move forward. Okay, so there is a lot of times what will happen is when this urethral sponge starts filling up with prosthetic fluid, it naturally creates a sensation of urination. So the woman thinks she has to pee. Since she doesn't want to pee during sex, she holds it in, and you experience what's called retrograde ejaculation. So the prosthetic fluid goes back up into the bladder. So you don't ejaculate. Okay. So how you, and I'll get into details about how you get to this point in a minute, but what you first have to realize is that when you're being stimulated and you feel this pressure, you want to, you have the muscles that are for those of women who have had kids, you have what's, you already know this, you have the pubococcygeal muscle, and this is what you contract and expand when you do Kegels. Okay, so
Kegels all day.
Yeah,
All day.
These are the muscles that you contract and expand when you want to tighten your vagina and when you want to stop the flow of urine. So one way that you can test which muscles to work is next time and men should do Kegels too. Kegels are very good for men. We have the same pubococcygeal muscle. It's the same muscle that we use when we pee, but also when we come. So that feeds into stopping us from ejaculating, but it also is good for your prostate gland. So anyway, so if you're a woman and you feel that sensation, you want to push like you're peeing.
Yeah.
You don't want to tighten like you're trying to hold in the pee. You want to push it out. Okay.
Okay.
So because you're not urinating, and that's very important.
Oh, so before we want
So
to
I should
find
hold in my pee, but not pee, and then just squirt.
Right. So when we're like,
so instead of going to the bathroom prior to sex, I should just let
you don't stop him in the middle of sex and say, "Oh, I have to pee."
I gotta go.
Just keep going.
Right. If you feel like, what I'm saying is that the sensation of the fluid building up on the urethral sponge is going to make you feel like you have to pee. If you don't know any better, you're going to hold it in so you don't pee during sex. What I'm telling you is, now that you know better that it's not pee, let it go. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, and you want to
figure this out. I'm like literally gonna have to read up on this and like literally figure it out.
You want to learn control over that muscle, and when you feel the sensation, push. Okay.
Now can I ask you something really quickly? For the women who do not have vaginal orgasms like that, they may only get clitoral orgasms. I would imagine that squirting really comes from vaginal orgasms. I could be completely wrong, but no. All right.
Squirting is female ejaculation is completely independent of orgasm. Okay. They may or may not coincide. As I said before, men, they're also separate. Ejaculation and orgasm are separate, but men are used to doing that at the same time. With women, you can ejaculate and not orgasm. You can orgasm and not ejaculate, or you can do them both at the same time. Okay. So now,
I'm just curious, like for the women who may not have vaginal orgasms hardly ever, because that's very common, and I mentioned this on a previous podcast, that it needs to be normalized that a lot of women don't have vaginal orgasms. They may only have clitoral orgasms by men eating them out or what have you. So what is the difference, like trying to squirt or what have you? What is the difference between a vaginal orgasm and a clitoral orgasm? Like, how do you, like, does it both come the same way? Like,
To clarify, statistically, 70% of women need clitoral stimulation to achieve orgasm. So it is it is the women who can orgasm vaginally are very lucky, but they are the minority. Most women.
I agree with that because I am one of those women.
Yeah.
I have only ever had one person one person I was with that has ever given me a vaginal orgasm. And I am almost 38 years old.
Right.
And the only other orgasms I've ever had were clitoral. So that's why I say is,
well,
like, it needs to be normalized that not every single woman has a vaginal orgasm.
Well, okay, so the vagina is connected to the pelvic nerve and the clitoris is connected to the pudendal nerve. Now, ultimately, these will meet, of course, but immediately they come from different nerve branches. Okay, that's why if you have both, if you're a lucky woman,
excuse me, I'm sorry.
If you're a lucky woman who has both, you might experience a different sensation between clitoral and vaginal. If you have anal orgasms, if you have what's called a uterine orgasm is when the man goes really deep and pounds against the cervix. But only like 5% of women can orgasm this way, and it's really not healthy because when it's repeated, it can damage the cervix. It can cause like uterine or cervical prolapse, and it can hurt and cause a lot of problems. Some women actually find it painful when the man hits them there. Some women are indifferent to it. But okay, so here now we're gonna I'll get into the orgasm in a second. Here's
I'm sorry, Ryan. Lady, let's get to some of the comments before we proceed.
I think I put all the comments on there.
Okay.
Miguel just says, I don't care what any man tells you. When a woman squirts is the best feeling that I get off making a woman feel good. So.
Okay.
Well, that's you.
And Carlos said, let it go, whatever that means.
Well, I think he means let the ejaculate go, let it flow.
Right. Just let it go. Don't try to hold it.
If it was that easy, we would. Trust me.
Right.
Believe.
Well, but
there's several times where I'm just like,
that is the problem, is because men think it's that fucking easy. Excuse my language, but they do.
Well, I think the pun was very appropriate considering the subject matter. That fucking easy. Yeah. But anyway,
no, it's not.
But no, I mean, I do understand the question or the statement, let it go, because like I was dating this girl and I was going down on her and fingering her at the same time. And then suddenly she was like, move back. I don't want to squirt in your face. And I'm like, no, please squirt in my face. I want you to squirt in my face. But she was too embarrassed to do it. So I moved my face back and kept using my fingers and, like Old Faithful, but so let's get to the how do you do it part.
Yeah.
Well, yes. What?
Okay.
How do you
keep
do
going.
it?
I'm gonna listen. So bear with
I'm
me.
taking notes.
I'm listening.
Okay, so like I mentioned, you already want to be aroused. So get your favorite toy, and you should try this by yourselves first,
Okay.
and then once you get used to it, then it will be much easier to do it with a partner.
Okay.
So you're masturbating, you're there you go, squirt in my face, exactly. You're using your favorite vibrator, you're feeling very aroused. I will have to wait until she gets back because she needs to see me.
Okay. Miguel says he just got my point. Okay. And then Carlos says, squirt in my face. And then Quincy says, oh my gosh, she better not.
Okay,
Right,
so
Quincy, you don't want her to squirt in your face? Come on. It's sexy. Come on.
I can't wait to learn how to do it. I'm fucking doing it all
I
over.
know.
like,
I'm going to practice on myself
okay.
tonight.
Well, like I said, I tried to explain this in the way that I would write about it, which means you have to have not some certain knowledge beforehand. Okay.
Right.
Because the urethral sponge is around the urethra and the urethra is on top of the vagina, when you start stimulating after you've stimulated your breast and your clit and everything, when you start stimulating yourself vaginally, you need to go upwards.
Yeah.
So if I'm fingering, I'm trying to get into camera going the wrong way. If I'm fingering, I want to go this way. I want to do a come hither motion like this.
Right.
So my fingers are stroking the upper interior wall of her vagina.
The G spot.
Now, yes, that's what the urethral sponge is the G spot.
The G spot. Okay.
Yeah, I should have said that a year ago, but I
That's okay.
Yes, it is
But
that
not
is
a
what
lot of people know where the G spot is,
Yeah.
so let's just.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's named after the scientist Grafenberg who found it. That's why it's called G spot, by the way.
But fingers can get there better than a man's penis can. So
Well, fingers are more
in some instances.
fingers are more dexterous.
Right.
And as I was saying to Lady E, you definitely want to do this first. You know, I mean, you don't have to. You can experiment with your partner if they're down for it, but it just might be easier if you do it yourself first.
Mhm.
But yes, you want to do a come hither motion. And I have a little bit of issue with other sex educators because they'll be like, oh, well, the G spot is an inch and a half in and blah, blah, blah. And it might feel rough that's all bullshit. Okay. Because the tissue on every woman's vagina is different. Okay. So you probably won't feel the G spot itself. You know, they will try it, like certain books that talk about this will try and tell you that when your urethral sponge is filling, it will depress into the vagina. That's bullshit in my experience, because the vaginal tissue will change the sensation that you're feeling with your fingers, so you're not going to feel that pushing into her vaginal canal. So you just have to trust that that's working. But here's the thing: the urethra is only 2 inches long. From the bladder to the meatus, in most women, it's like 2.5 inches. My fingers, once I insert my fingers and I start doing a come hither motion, I'm going to hit the G spot. Okay, as long as I'm giving nice full strokes. There's also circular motions. So and you wanna pay attention. So as you're stroking, ooh, that I felt that little twinge. That little twinge is your G spot, and that's where you want to stop. And then you start focusing on that area. You concentrate on that area. Maybe you like circles. There's a thing I like to do is like a drumming or a tapping, where I do this with my fingers and I do like a double tapping. Okay. A lot of women like that. And what it also does is it creates a vibration sensation throughout the introitus, because the introitus is, and going back to what Tweet was saying, in most women, the vagina is not highly innervated, not like the clitoris. The clitoral head has 8,000 nerve endings packed into something the size of a pea. Now, 8,000 nerve endings, a man's penis has 4,000. So a clitoris has twice as many nerve endings in a much, 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 much smaller place, which her clitoral glands compared to the penile glands. Okay. So when you find that spot, thank you. When you find that spot, you want to focus on that spot, okay? Because that's,
so many men are learning a lot of things from you.
They are. They're learning so much right now. Keep talking.
I'm wishing I was getting laid this evening just
I know.
before this. I'm like, fuck.
So, but I want to, what you were saying, Tweet. I want to reinforce that because a lot of men don't realize that because again, it's societal. Men are taught that the end all be all of sex is penetration, and it's not penetration. It is not vaginal penile penetration. Trust me, it is not.
Did you get
no.
off while we had sex? Did you get
Yeah.
off? Did you come?
Yeah,
I'm
and
like, do you think that I
you
came? Did you
yeah.
feel my legs shaking at
Yeah.
any point in time? Did you say I'm fucking coming? I'm doing
Yeah.
this? Nothing. No. So
No.
no, I didn't. I was rolling my eyes in the back of my head the entire time during sex. Sorry.
But yeah, the highest amount of innervation in the vagina is in the front part. So it's like the opening and right inside the opening. The deeper you go, the less sensitive the vagina is for most women. Not all women, but for most women. So, this is important. This is why, and just to give another tip, tongue fucking is awesome. So if you're a guy and you're eating pussy, tongue fucker, because and what I mean by that is like here is her introitus. This is her pussy hole. This is your tongue. You want to do this with your tongue, in and out with your pussy, with your tongue. You want a tongue fucker because the introitus is very sensitive, and that can be highly, highly arousing. Okay,
Oh.
so
Amazing. I'm not even gonna lie.
now I want you to understand too. Tweet, you mentioned this earlier. If a woman's mind is not engaged in sex, forget about it. You know, forget about it. Okay.
And I would say, like, we're not. It's not that we're fully not engaged. It's just that this may seem very sexist or whatever it is, but men primarily think one thing, that they have the goal in mind, and women, us as women, we have a million things to think about: children, jobs, cleaning the house, taking care of this, doing that. Like, it's not that we're not involved in what is going on, because we are thoroughly enjoying it, but there's other things that are on the back of our mind that we're thinking about, that is inhibiting us from reaching our peak, which sucks. Like, you really have to have a man, or you really have to be 100%, like, there's nothing else that is going to matter at that point in time.
Right.
Like, you are fully engaged. But in a lot of aspects, in marriage and relationships, that is a huge factor.
Well, the whole gender pattern of multi not tasking. What is the word escape me? I guess multitasking and monotasking is, and it's the theory is that it goes back to our hunter-gatherer ancestors. When men hunted, they had to be focused on a very singular target, whereby when women gathered, they had to be aware of these bushes, they're over here, the snake in the grass, the baby crying, you know, they're communicating with all their fellow women. So the whole idea is that the hunter-gatherer brains developed in a way. So I don't know, that's like biological psychology and all that jazz. But getting into what you were, that kind of does go into what you're saying. And as it feeds into this point, when you bring the clitoris and the vagina together, the woman's mind starts to connect the sensations. Okay. So what happens is I can get you to the point of squirting through clitoral stimulation, but usually it's the conjunction of clitoral and vaginal stimulation. And the reason is it's the clitoral stimulation that's going to sexualize the act, and it's the vaginal stimulation that's going to, for lack of a better word, inspire or encourage, the G spot itself. So generally, you kind of want both, and every woman's a little bit different. Some women can get themselves
foreplay.
to the.
How about let's talk about foreplay?
That's all. That's like a whole other show.
Foreplay is huge.
Look, tweet.
Huge.
Okay, we have we can bring him on another show, but we have specific topics that we have set in place right now.
That's a whole other show. But yes. I'm just saying, a woman needs to
Excuse
be.
me, I'm sorry.
No, but it's right. As I said before, you need to be aroused. You can't just stick your fingers in and squirt. You need to be aroused first.
Right.
So, breast,
All
clit,
right, next
anal,
question.
whatever. Okay. Well, hold on. I'm not done. Um, I don't want to give incomplete. So what you might do, if you're the woman, get yourself into a comfortable position, arouse yourself, use a vibrator, whatever.
Mhm.
Then bring in the fingers. They actually make G-spot vibrators if you want to try that.
Ooh.
Then, well, it's. Have you guys seen? Do you know what I'm talking about? G-spot vibrator.
Yes, I've seen
Okay.
them. Mhm.
Okay. So you might use that, whatever you want to use. And you keep going and you keep building until you feel that sensation to urinate. Now, here's a little tip if you're having trouble. It might help, and this is especially if you're just beginning how to do it. It might help if you are masturbating in a squatted position, like you would squat on the toilet. Because when you're lying on your back, it's hard to push out your pubococcygeal muscles like you're gonna pee. I mean, have you ever tried to pee while lying on your back? It's hard to do purposefully.
Oh, okay. So when you're sitting in a sitting position, it's easier to do when you're lying down. What about when you're standing up? When you're
Stand,
standing up.
Standing up too would be the same kind of idea, or maybe like you would stand up and put like one foot up on the bed type of thing.
Okay.
But squatting is good because squatting mimics the million times that you've expelled fluid from your urethra, because and it puts pressure on your pelvic floor and everything like that, right? Now, after you learn how to control the pubococcygeal muscle and squirt, then you would have an easier time doing it while you're lying back.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So that's that tip I wanted to get into. You might find it easier to squirt. So as you build this fluid, build the sensation, as the sensation builds and builds and builds, every woman is a little different. You might have to withdraw before you can squirt. Okay. Or you might have to continue the stimulation in order to squirt. You might have to stop the clitoral stimulation but maintain the vaginal stimulation, or the other way around.
Mm.
So you really that's why I say it's easier to do by yourself at first, kind of like experiment and practice. And then when you get it down, teaching your partner how to do it will be easy peasy lemon squeezy. You know what I mean?
Okay. It's definitely teachable for women
Yeah.
and men.
Yes.
So it's not just a natural thing that some women do and some women don't do.
Well, it is, but it can be taught. I mean, some women just naturally do it, and some women it's harder to do. And I am not saying that every single woman can do it, but the majority can, and most women who don't think they can probably can. As I mentioned before, it might be a little, it might be a lot. You might squirt, you might dribble. It might be connected to orgasm, and it might not. It might just feel good, like a release. It might be an emotional release, or just simply a release of tension because you've been holding it in, you finally let it go. Chances are it's going to feel a little bit good. It's just going to depend on the woman, and in the situation, how much tension was created and subsequently how much is released is going to obviously affect, because that's what an orgasm is. It's the release of tension. So this goes back to the edging. The more tension you create, the better it's going to feel when you release it, because it's a greater simple release.
Yeah.
So there's something in my brain nagging me a little bit that I needed to mention regarding this. If I think about it, I'll bring it up. But just in the sense that, like a technicality, I guess. But it's okay. We've covered the vast majority of it. So
yeah, that was good. I like that. Very, very good information on that topic.
and it might take several times.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean,
So
it's doable. It's doable for men and women to actually practice it.
What I was gonna say is make sure that, I mean, it's a good idea to pee first before you start practicing this.
Okay.
Huh?
They don't pee.
Yeah. But for me personally, if we're doing in that situation and you peed on me and it felt really, really good, I would still be okay with that. Because one of the comments was, if you're, I think it was Miguel, I want to make you feel good, now I'm not a fetishist, so I'm not gonna like drink your pee or anything weird. But if you do actually pee, it's not gonna bother me. So like if you're experimenting, with your partner, make sure their boundaries. Because I'm telling you right now, hey, even if you think it's pee and you pee on me, that's fine. Then afterwards you realize it's not. How do you know? Well, because it doesn't smell like pee. Like one girl I was with, well, it's true. One girl I was with, this was the same girl who like orgasms, 20 times every time we have sex.
Jesus Christ.
She squirted like you would not believe. Like if she had injected dye into her bladder, into her sponge, her urethral sponge, it would have looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. It was just like.
Oh
but this was kind of new to her.
I'm like, what the?
What's up, Miguel? Hi.
This was kind of new to her, so she's like, I honestly can't tell if I was ejaculating or urinating. So I went face down, and her pussy, the sheets, her legs, everything. No trace of urine. So we kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And she's just like, for like 30 minutes, she's squirting. And then eventually she was peeing. Because then eventually you could smell it. Because you're. Because
let's take that and run to the next question.
Right. Well, your urethral sponge will only produce, the glands will only produce so much fluid.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to do the R. Kelly shit on here.
Yeah. So once you run out of that, then
What's the next question, lady?
Next question.
All right.
Shit, I need like a whole other bottle of water.
So we have quite a bit more topics to cover. Do you want me to still go in order, or do you want me to pick some of the other ones?
Let me look real quick and I'll.
So, okay, this next question, I think we should touch on this one.
I think we should touch on this one a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to touch on it first, or do you want me to touch on it first?
Okay.
Touch on it first.
The question is, can a relationship work if you were the side piece and they left their current relationship for you? So I think Tweet and I both have kind of some experience in this topic, this question. So maybe we would like to hear your side of this, Ryan.
Okay. So here's the thing. Love is not a magic spell. Disney has lied to you. Okay. You don't meet someone and fall in love and live happily ever after. Very rarely does that happen. So meeting someone and being with them, and then meeting someone else and being with that other person is like me going to, Dunkin' Donuts for a few years for my morning coffee, and I enjoy it. I like it. But then they open up a Starbucks near my office. So I start going to Starbucks, and I like Starbucks a little bit more. I enjoy it a little bit more. It's a little different. So I switch to Starbucks. It's the same thing, because ultimately people grow, they change as they get older. Their needs, their wants, their tastes change. So it's actually a logical inference that if you are with a person and then you move on to another person, it might be because your first relationship met its natural conclusion. It reached its natural ending. So now that you've moved on to another person, maybe that's because you and that person, that second person, are not compatible. So obviously it can work just as well as the first relationship worked, or any other relationship can work. So yes, your side piece, I don't really like that term because I think it really objectifies women, but whatever.
I mean, it could be both ways. It could be both ways. It just was, just the way
but there is a difference. I want to say this. There is a difference between making an emotional investment in your side piece versus someone you're just fucking on the side.
Now, what if it is completely 100% an emotional investment?
Then you're going to evolve and you're going to leave your first partner for your second partner if all other things.
At what point do you think that person is going to, like, all right, so you both are fully involved, like this. You're kinetic fucking sand.
Right.
You are the same. You are twin flames. I wouldn't say soulmates, but you're twin flames, and it is what it is. And at what point in time do you think that person is going to eventually leave for you? Or do you just wait around, or do you not?
You mean if you're the side piece?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you eat when you're hungry, you know what I mean? And sometimes you put off eating until you get really, really hungry. So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. You're gonna wait as long as you feel like waiting until it hurts you more than it helps you, and then hopefully you'll leave because it's toxic. But every woman has their own threshold of tolerance, and it's like, but we got to keep in mind, I like the fact that you use the word energy, Tweet, because there's something called new relationship energy, and that's when you meet someone for the first time and you're all like, oh shit, you're like all in each other's business, and it mimics being in love is kind of similar. It actually mimics a parent with their newborn, where it's all giggly and tickling, and it's like being funny and really fun with each other. And I think a lot of times what happens is both parties might wait to see if that new relationship energy fizzles out, because if it does, you don't want to leave your current partner.
What if it never does?
Well, then you're probably going to leave your current partner and be with the second partner. If it does fizzle out, then you're probably going to be like, I feel bad for stepping out on my wife. I really liked you, but in your mind, that it was just something new and exciting and fun. Now, if you step out on your wife, I'm going to say that if I step out on my wife and I like divorce her and then hook up with this other girl, and then 3 months later it fizzles out, then I'm gonna be like, oh shit, and then I'm gonna be crawling back to my wife on my hands and knees. I made a mistake. Oh my god. No, you can't accidentally fuck a woman 300 times. You know what I mean? It's like that's so you have to, it's impossible for me to answer that question because every situation would be different. But
I was just really looking for, this is just perspective and things that I have experienced, and people, even what I'm going through now, I'm curious to know what is the possible outcome.
But as the whole trust issue though, like if a man is with a woman and he's like, you're his side piece, and he leaves his wife for you, is there full trust there? Or do you feel like
you're already accepting that he's going to do the same thing to you?
So it's like, why would you want him to leave his wife for you if you don't already like trust that he's not going to do the same thing for you? That kind of thing.
Well, okay, so let me respond to that by saying this. If you meet a guy and he told you that he cheated on his girlfriend, let's say you're 35 or whatever, and he says he cheated on his girlfriend when he was in his 20s, are you going to hold that against him and assume that because he cheated 10 years ago, he's automatically going to cheat on you? Or is there a statute of limitations on cheating? So likewise, that statute of limitations can be 6 months or 6 years or never, or if you've ever cheated, I'm not going to be with you. So again, every woman's different. You can't assume.
Or the reason he's cheating on his significant other with you could be completely different scenario.
Right.
And you could be giving him completely 100% what he's not getting at home.
We tend to have. This is like this goes to everything, like cancer and everything. We tend to have unreal, and this has been like proven, like in neurological scans. We have unrealistically optimistic views of our own lives. So if I were to tell you that 2 and 3 people, you know,
I'm sorry, Ryan. My friend Jackie, she doesn't have Facebook, and she's commenting on.
I don't know what that
She
means.
knows who
He's for
I'm
the
talking
streets.
about. So.
He's for the
Oh,
streets.
you're like, you're going to kick him out in the streets? Okay.
Yeah, he's for
for
the
the
he
streets.
belongs on the streets.
I love you, Jack.
We have a predisposition to think that we're special and it's not going to happen to us. If 2 out of people get earlobe cancer, you're going to assume you're the 3rd person who doesn't get earlobe cancer. You know, because you have to function that way, because you can't walk around all the time going, oh my God, I'm going to get earlobe cancer, you know. So you choose to believe that everything is going to work out for you. And if you're in that relationship, that's what you're going to do. I'm special. He's not going to cheat on me the way he cheated on her because I'm special. They had a bad relationship. Their relationship was over. You're going to rationalize it. You're going to justify it. And it's called cognitive dissonance. Your intellect is telling you one thing. Your emotions are telling you another. Your ego is going to step in and try to rationalize it so you feel peace of mind. 9 times out of 10, and this is a shame, because it's actually a bigger problem in so many areas of sex, love, relationships, and life. But and this goes to kind of like what I said to Montana about people compartmentalizing. All too often, emotion beats logic, and it shouldn't, because your emotion is not truth, and your emotion can lead you into very devastating, destructive, unhealthy decisions in your life. So all too often people are dominated by their emotions, and they don't stop to think you're being a dumbass, you know. You need to step back and yeah, you need to
And trust me, I like this is like these are circumstantial situations. I have been there, done that with a lot of different things. I just came out of a divorce a year ago, and I'm newly being single again. And
Me too, girl.
It's been a tough road to
Yep.
try to define who is genuinely interested, or they're just looking to get laid, or they're just looking for somebody to speak to, like just have communications with and just text back and forth, or they're just whatever. It like I want to say that it has been extremely difficult coming out of a divorce where you thought that that was somebody that you wanted to be with for the rest of your life. And coming into the dating world where now it's all socialized. It's social media. It's Tinder. It's Bumble. Whatever it is, I don't know. But I'm just saying it is so difficult to differentiate what is real and what is not, and to find somebody that is genuine and that is literally interested in getting to know you or whatever. I mean, sex on the first date, fuck it. You're feeling it, get it. That will never define your relationship. I don't think. But maybe for men it doesn't. But if I'm feeling it, I'm gonna do it.
It does for some men and it doesn't for others.
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
it depends on the man.
But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like in general, like it is so difficult to find a happy medium. Like you can text your hey whatever this and that for weeks, and then all of a sudden you're ghosted. Like where did you go?
Yeah.
Like you couldn't say anything or do it. Like this is so off topic, but we can talk about this on another podcast or whatever. But
well,
this is kind of like what the fuck.
I have been in my personal life on the opposite side of that equation so many times, where a woman likes me one minute and then the next minute doesn't. It's like a light switch. She's turned on and then she's turned off.
It's the same for us.
And
so,
yeah. I mean, of course, in my experience, it's women. And I've
interested 1 second, and then all of a sudden they're not. Like, what happened?
And I've literally seen the light in a woman's eyes go out. Okay, and the reason I say that is because when you're aroused and adrenaline is pumping, your pupils dilate, which reflects light. That's why when you're turned on, sparkly eyes. Okay. Now, I was at the gym, and there was this woman, and she was looking at me like I was prime rib, and she just wanted to eat me up. And then, and I mean, like,
love it.
I was like, I'm a friendly person. I'm sociable around the gym. A nod, smile. I was like 20 feet away. I mean, like, legitimately 20 feet away. And I was walking past her, and I don't remember what she said, but she said something directly to me, like, to get my attention and to call me over to her. And I had seen her looking at me with those sparkly eyes a couple of times before, and she was looking at me like that now. And then we started talking. And as you guys can notice, I'm very expressive in the way I talk. And I was just like, blah, 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 blah. And she went, and her face literally went like this. And it's like, it was like, suddenly she realized she did not like that. And you could pinpoint the second when I showed maybe it was too effeminate, or maybe it was just too flamboyant, or
anything.
Yeah, whatever it was, it turned her off. And I'm like, shit, I literally saw the light go off in her eyes. I'm gonna teach some people this shit. I'm gonna jot this shit down because this is a learning moment. But no, it is. And for me, and this actually also feeds into the friend zone, and why women shouldn't be so quick to throw them in the friend zone. Sometimes your friend can offer you more. There is something, and I think this feeds into one of the other questions. If I remember correctly, there is a difference, a major difference, a Grand Canyon difference between sexual attraction and sexual satisfaction. Because you can be, I'm gonna fuck Jason Momoa like no one has ever fucked anyone ever in the history of the human, yeah. So, but then when you actually fuck Jason Momoa, it's not so good. You realize that you're not very compatible.
Yeah.
Whereby, well, Chris Pine is okay looking. He's all right, but he's more of a friend. But then somehow, some way, you sleep with him, and suddenly you're very compatible. And then you see him in a whole new light. Now you're sexualizing him, Chris Pine, and you're not sexualizing Jason Momoa, because sex is physical. The chemistry is physical, and you don't know if you have that until you get physical. So all of the prerequisites that you create in your mind about what you are attracted to, those go out the window when you actually get physical with someone, and that can change. It might not change. It's the same thing with, like, a woman can be beautiful, and then her character or her personality is ugly, and suddenly she's not so attractive anymore. And a guy too. The difference is the guy will still fuck her, and the woman probably won't.
Exactly.
Because the guy's like,
let's end on this. And do we have one other or two other questions that we might want to get into before we call it a night?
So I really wanted to touch on this other subject. One of our viewers actually sent us a question. So let's touch on this, and then I would love to have you back on, Ryan, to touch on some
Ryan,
subjects.
Please, you have to come back on. This was amazing.
Yes.
well, we can also hit the anal sex question, because I can answer that pretty concisely and pretty shortly. So that would only take a few minutes.
We have
Okay. So let me hit this other question first,
Sure.
and then
after this other question, if you guys want to, go ahead and ask the other question.
Yeah. So after this one that I really want to touch on, just because of a viewer really wanted us to touch on this subject, and I don't want to let that person down. So this next topic is: should a person stay in a relationship or marriage if there is a lack of intimacy from their partner? If so, how do you bring the drive back? So before you answer this, I actually wanted to read a little bit of backstory to it.
I can hear you. Keep going.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So, pertaining to this question, should a person stay in a relationship or marriage if there is lack of intimacy from their partner? If so, how do you bring that drive back? So this person's question, so the question for tonight, this is what this person said. I have been married to my spouse for 10 plus years. We vibe in everywhere, in every way. We vibe in every way and get along well, except when it comes to intimacy. The lack of intimacy causes me to be angry, push away, and resent her. 2 years ago, when I brought it up, she stated she just doesn't enjoy sex. Prior, she stated that it wasn't giving her emotionally, it, stated that I wasn't give her emotionally what she was looking for. So she was holding off. This caused me to change my behavior and give her what she was looking for. Now intimacy still doesn't happen. I want it. I want her, but I can't force what she doesn't want. She seems fine without it. I'm not. It is causing me not to even really care for her anymore as a wife. What shall I do?
Okay. I want to start by saying I cannot ever advise someone whether they should or should not stay with a person. That is not my, I would never do that, and unless it's like an abuse situation,
Right.
But if I understand the question, he's already addressed her concerns and he's met them at least to the best of their ability, and she's still not getting what she still doesn't care too much about sex, and he does.
Right.
Okay. So to me personally, and this is, it depends on the situation that the individuals are in, but sex is, and I don't mean just intercourse, any kind of sexual intimacy, so that's anything that you do that's sensual or intimate. It is the defining characteristic of a romantic relationship. It is the one thing that you do with that person that you don't do with anyone else. I mean, I can go out to dinner with my sister. I can go to the movies with my friend. It is the sexual intimacy and sensuality that I share with my partner that makes our relationship a romantic relationship. Without that, you're basically just friends.
Right.
Okay. So I am extremely sensual, and I don't even, I'm the type of person that, and again, this is just, I'm just using I'm using the first person. This is true, but I'm the kind of person that when I meet a woman, the first thing that I want to do is I want to go down on her. She doesn't need to reciprocate right away. We don't need to have sex. What I want, that is how I experience sensuality on a very fundamental level. Okay. And I'll tell you why. I'll share this. I'll share this with you because this is one of the reasons I became a sex educator. A lot of people ask me that. I'm surprised no one has asked that. I had a severe anxiety disorder when I was in my 20s. I barely left the house. For 10 years, I didn't date, kiss, or so much as hug a woman. When you go without sensuality and intimacy for 10 years, it teaches you to appreciate it on a level that no one can understand unless you've been through it. Because you don't truly appreciate something until you go without it.
Right.
And you get over the whole horniness thing. That goes away after like 2 years.
Yeah.
After that, it became fundamental human connection. I literally felt like I was dying on the inside. Like my soul was dying because I wasn't getting any sort of romantic or, like physical contact, because we're physical beings,
Right.
So you need that sense of touch. And my love language is touch. So that kind of compounded the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I missed the most was like oral sex, because that brings in everything, like the smell of a woman, the feel of a woman, it brings in a lot of different senses, physical senses all into one. So for me, that's like the first thing I want to do. because to me, sensuality is that important. It's not getting laid. It's not me having an orgasm. It is the most fundamental and basic act of being intimate, being physically connected and sensual with another person.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel this question from that point of view. If this guy is saying that it's so important to him, it's we tend to over sexualize men in the sense that, oh, they just want to get laid. We have feelings too, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like you're fine. So for us, we feel rejected, we feel pushed away. Our emotional, we might not know how to express the emotional need, but the sex is the physical expression of the emotion a lot of the times. So for me, it's like there was I when I was a teenager, there was this girl, and I was about to go down on her, and this was before that previous story, but I was I like making love to women with my mouth. That's how I like to put it. I was doing that before.
Is that your resume?
That's the title of my next book, How to Make Love to Women.
I love it.
But and we had been friends for a couple of years, and we had already like kind of dated and like made out when we were younger. But then when we turned 18 and became more sexually, mature, and she smelled so good, and by which I mean her pussy smelled so good. And I was like, I'm going down, and I'm like trying to take off her jeans to eat her, and she's like, not just that. I don't mind if you fuck me and then eat my pussy, but not just that. And when she kind of told me that I could do that, it was extremely validating to me as a man that she just like gave me permission. So I didn't have to like do that thing that teenagers do where it's like, oh, if I touch her, is she gonna recoil? Like I'm gonna start by kissing her and then I'm gonna try and touch her boob. Will she let me touch her boob? I hate that kind of indecisionness. You know what I mean? It's like when you get older, you kind of get over that. But still, as teenagers, when she told me, you could fuck me, that was like very validating because like, oh, that's awesome. We did not have
But
sex.
is there a way for him to get his groove back with his significant other?
Okay. When I first heard the question, I thought
if she is completely because I feel like she is completely disconnected from their relationship. Okay. Is there a way for him to get that back?
Okay.
Without making it known.
If she is asexual, meaning she has very little to no interest in sex, or very rarely has interest in sex, and she has been that way through most of her life, and she's been that way throughout their relationship. And the one caveat to asexual or what's called demi or demisexual people is that they can be sexually involved with someone they're very emotionally connected to. If these two people are very emotionally connected, and he's even tried to link the emotional and physical connection, and she's still not interested, then the short answer is no.
So they can never get it back.
No. I'm going to be a terrible person to bring this up, but do you think that there is somebody else that is involved, which is pleasuring her in that aspect, and she's turning her husband down?
Well, what I'm hearing in the question, but okay, now
that would be my first suspect. Like
again,
giving it to you, and I'm not.
Again, there is a difference. That's why I went to great lengths to say she's asexual. She's never had interest, and throughout their relationship, she's never had interest.
All right, so he's gonna have to differentiate.
Okay, so let's say in the beginning of their relationship, say they've been married for 10 plus years. The beginning of the relationship was great. The sex was there, all that stuff. They had a child together. After the child was born, she became less interested in sex, and it just became more like a chore kind of thing and not just like an intimacy kind of thing. And like he's expressed this to her several times about, like, hey, let's, like, I want you, you're my wife, I'm attracted to you. And she's just like not responding to any kind of intimacy at all.
Okay. If to go back to your first suspicion, if she has been cheating on him for years, then he should leave anyway because clearly he's being played.
I'm not saying that he is, but I'm
No.
I'm not saying that she is. I'm
Right.
just saying, like, if you're really that disconnected, there's one or two things. You're either getting it from somewhere else, or you are literally in a complete depression. Like there's a mental state in their ability. You're either getting it from somewhere else, or you are completely mentally shut down, that you have no desire to have any intimacy at all.
That some
that
people
is a huge thing, and a lot of people, a lot of men or women, vice versa, don't understand that people shut down when they have mental health issues.
Mhm.
And and that's what it is, and that might be the problem, but it's one or two things.
Well,
you're either
again,
shutting down because you're getting it from somewhere else, or you're
it would
shutting down
be
because you have a problem.
it would be easier, obviously, for me to answer if I knew more specifically. But asexuality is a thing because it's quite simply that her she might not have sensitive sexual nerve endings. Just like some women can, it takes them 30 minutes to have an orgasm, and other women can orgasm 30 times in 30 minutes. So your bodies can be more sexual and if more sensitive. And if her sexual nervous system is not very sensitive, but again, there's a good chance that it's been this way for a long time. So if she's never really had interest in sex, then she's probably not going to gain interest in sex because she's not built that way, and that's okay for her. There's nothing wrong with that. But if he is very interested in sex, then no, it's going to be a problem. And if this has been a problem for years, I mean, if it's already been 2 years, they need to go see a therapist. I can say that right offhand. If it's already been that long, you need to seek a therapist who specializes in these kind of issues.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a long time. If she is asexual, she's probably not gonna gain a sense of sexuality. If
let's say, sorry.
If it's a baby, though, there's different. I would respond differently. That requires different responses.
But like, just to go off what you said, so let's say like she was sexual in the beginning, but not like out there sexually, or like not experimenting sexually. Like the basic sex stuff that happened, that kind of thing. And she wasn't like into toys, or she wasn't into like role playing or whatever. And then I guess after, life went on and her child was born, and then she just became just like I'm perfectly fine with not having sex ever again. Like I don't think that's normal for a woman. Like
That's depression.
but like for a woman after having sex, or after having a child, for me, like, yes, my hormones were like all over the place. It's gonna be different after that. Like I don't feel secure with myself, or don't feel sexually like desirable after having a child. So
Which is very common.
yeah, like that's very, very common for a woman to have those feelings after, having a child. But that's usually like happens within the first year and a half of having a child. But after that, it's like, okay, it should be going back to normal. Like my sex drive
She
should be
is no
there.
longer emotionally or sexually invested in that man. I will be 100% honest.
Right.
In my position, I have been there. Once you check out emotionally and sexually, That's it.
Like it's over, right?
Well,
It's done.
that's why I said
And
if it
it is very sad, and it is hard for the person that is on the opposite end of it. But there is only so much you can do, and only so much that you can put in and try to put an effort into. But if that person is not reciprocating it's time.
yeah
And
they have
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but literally I lived through it. I have
Right.
done it. Like I
Yeah.
have been the person that has begged for it in
Yeah.
my relationship, and was turned down on multiple occasions, like every occasion I could.
Right.
It's tough. So I'm
But
sorry
yeah,
for
we
who
have
wrote
to.
in, and this is my perspective. This might not be everybody's perspective, so I just want to say, but she's emotionally and physically shut down, and she's checked out.
If she was having sex with him in the beginning, it may have also been just. But like you said, lady, it was like vanilla, kind of neutral sex. It may have been because she just felt like it was her obligation to sleep with her husband,
Right.
or she was just doing it to make him happy, and then she got tired of doing it, and maybe she was never actually into the sex, that
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now,
that's what I'm getting from the whole story that I heard.
Now,
From
after having a baby, yes, there's a estrogen levels fluctuate, and especially if you're breastfeeding, then you get like prolactin, and that changes estrogen levels, and the libido goes bye bye.
right.
In some women,
Yeah.
then
I can't
there's that.
speak on the baby part, but I can speak on the entire checking out part. So
I mean, I can speak on the baby part just because of after my second child, my libido totally went down. Like I totally thought I lost it all, but then, I mean, I think maybe it was just because of the situation that I was in. Honestly, the person that I was with at the time. I think.
it is. It literally
But then
depends on the
there
person
is, yeah.
who you're with.
Yeah.
But there is, like you said, for some women, it's not a lack of desire; it's because they don't feel sexy anymore because their bodies have changed. Because now they've been thrust in mommy role, so they feel like a mommy and not like a sexual being.
Right.
A lot of times, women they get touched out. They're so busy coddling their child and hugging and kissing and touching their child that the last thing they want to do is feel their husband's hands on them.
Right.
But like you said, if it's been that long, if it's been that should go away in time as the child grows up, as the woman's hormones go back to normal. Those things should sort of, it might not be the way it was in the beginning,
Yeah.
before the baby, but it should you should resume a sex life with your partner. As Tweet is saying, it could be postpartum depression, or it could be going into just a general depression, or it could be that she never really cared about sex, and now that she's a mom, she's basically, that's her role. She's mom. She doesn't need sex anymore because that's what sex is to her, was giving her a baby. So it fulfills its function.
I get that part. I think that maybe she really, or maybe, again, this is just me speaking in general, but maybe she never really understood the part of intimacy and being sexually involved and loving having sex and that part of intimacy, because that is huge.
Right. And
in order to have that intimacy and love with somebody and to genuinely love having sexual relations with that person is huge. You can have sex with anybody and just be sex. But you meet that one person that you have genuine intimacy with and romantic connections with, and you guys just are here, that is different. So they may have met on a whim and had sex, and it might have been great and all in that, but the intimacy was not there. It was just sex. It was just, let's just have sex. And then the baby evolved in place of that. So I mean, there's so many factors, but from my perspective, I would say that she's checked out, and I'm sorry.
Well, if it's been that long, they need to go see a therapist. And if for no other reason than to make sure that you have done everything you possibly can to save that relationship, that way, if you do leave, you won't regret the decision to leave because you know that you tried. And it sounds like they've both tried.
Yeah.
And if it's been that long, definitely go see a professional who specializes in this field. And if it still doesn't work, then at least you know you did everything you could, and you may just have to move on and find your happiness, or live your life with another person who's more compatible with you and fulfilling your needs and wants.
Find your twin flame.
Yeah, because I think, like, from what I understood from the whole story was that in the beginning, yes, everything was great. It was perfect. They wanted a child together, which they created. And then he wanted more kids, and she didn't. I guess she didn't after the first child. And then it slowly became like, she wasn't that into sex anymore or intimacy because she got what she wanted. Like, she got a child. That was the one thing that they a married couple, like, yeah, you're supposed to have a child, or that's the thing that you're supposed to do as a married couple. But then it's like you're still supposed to be intimate with your husband. You're
So
still
she
supposed
just
to be
lacks that all in general.
Yeah.
So it
right.
probably
And I also
it has nothing to do with him. It literally has everything to do with her.
right.
And
And I asked,
in her body, and
yeah,
she got what she wanted,
And-
and that was it.
right. And I
There's
also
nothing else.
asked too. I was like, okay, well, how do we spice things up, or how do we get the drive back? That kind of thing. Which, I mean, I'm hoping that Ryan has some answers to, like, okay, how do you get your wife or husband to, get back to where you were in the beginning? But
Well, but he said he already tried and it still didn't work.
I mean, yeah, he tried in his way. Maybe there's a different way. I mean, he tried counseling. He's tried talking to her. I mean, she seems like she's perfectly fine with just not ever having sex again. And I thought that was pretty abnormal for a woman or for any person to feel like they could just go throughout their whole life without having sexual intercourse with their significant other. And I thought that was very, very strange to me, how she has this process in her mind. And I just thought that was not normal. And I know, like, after having a child, your libido goes down, because that happened with me after my second child. But I know it was like other factors involved, like
How
health
long has
issues.
it been since they've had a baby?
I'm thinking like 4 to 6 years.
Mm.
So, I mean, there should have been like some kind of comeback to that afterwards.
That's a long time to not have
Right.
any spring back.
But here's another thing. Like, I could give you. We talked about tantra in terms of the emotional bonding, and I could give some like practices that he could try with her that they could connect more emotionally. But if it was me, I would just flat out ask her, do you even want to try this, or do you already know that you simply just don't care about sex? Because there would be no point in them going through the motions like that. If she already, like, she might want to do it, to make him happy, or she thinks she's supposed to, or maybe because she wants to try everything. But if she already knows,
Let me just give you a little other backstory. He's tried other things. I even suggested, maybe toys or whatever, or introducing some other thing into, and he was just like, nope, I've tried everything. She's not into toys. She's not into anything else. Not into, just flat out not into it.
well, I would ask her, because like I said, I could provide some practices, some tantra practices, and they're very simple. They're not nothing weird, they're not like strange Kama Sutra positions or anything. They're very simple things. But the thing is that the people who do that are trying to bond more physically and emotionally. So she has to want to bond with him on a sensual level. If she doesn't want to bond, then it's not going to do you any good. He's gonna be spinning his wheel. So
Oh, so that was sorry to interrupt, but that was like another thing that he mentioned was the fact that he would say something to her, or they would go to counseling. They actually went to counseling before for this, and he spoke his mind on what he wanted. And he said, it would happen for like a week or two, and then it would she would just be perfectly fine with going back to just not being intimate. So like he felt like she was just doing it to please him and not really into it, that kind of thing.
She was just acquiescing. That's the way it sounds.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, do you stay in a relationship with with somebody like that, or do you just move on, or what do you?
Yeah, I wouldn't stay. I wouldn't on both sides. I wouldn't want to make her feel like she's obligated to sleep with me.
Yeah.
Because now she's doing something she doesn't really want to do. I'm not getting what I want out of it, because even that's kind of what I was going to get at. Even if they practiced tantra and she got a little bit more emotionally invested, that doesn't mean that he's going to get what he wants out of the physical aspect of it. Because it's not teaching sex so much as it's teaching connection. So yeah, she might get a sense of connection, and that's great. But if he doesn't get the actual sensuality out of it, then he's sort of defeating his own purpose. So if it were me, it's been that long. It's been 4 or 5 years, and if sex is that important and to him, then they might need to have a conversation about should they really stay together. Another alternative would be ethical non-monogamy, for him to have a female partner that he sleeps with, but with his wife knowing it and being understanding it. But him getting his sexual gratification from another person while they maintain, because he said they vibe on every other level, so they can maintain that strong friendship and everything. Would she be okay?
From somebody else.
Yeah, would she be okay if he found sexual gratification in another woman?
That's tough.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's very hard without me talking to him directly. It's very, I'm throwing things out into the wind. It's very hard for me to, I'm just speculating, of course, at this point, because I don't know exactly what he's going through.
I think we generalized to the point of what he was looking for and trying to get at. So I think we all gave our honest opinions to what we think it might be. I think, should he stay if she is completely emotionally checked out? No. But in the long, in what it is, then you gotta. We have to decision in the long run.
We have to consider. It is a self-evident fact that if he's been trying to cultivate a sensual relationship for years and it's not working, that he cares deeply about it and she does not.
Right.
Exactly.
So I feel like after we went to therapy for it, we went to counseling for it, and he told me it helped for a little bit, and then it just went back to like normal.
So she just did it to appease him, and that was all. She did it for the momentary value, and that's all she did.
Right. So I don't think any person should have to just live their life like that. Like, no matter if you guys love each other or have a child together or whatever, it's like you're not emotionally connected anymore. You're not emotionally and physically and sexually connected anymore. It's like, it's just, it's not there. And it's like, can you get it back? Will you get it back? I don't know. But it's like, I wouldn't
At
stay in
this
a
rate,
relationship
no.
like that.
At this rate, these many years gone and nothing, no.
No, like, who is gonna stay in a relationship like that? Like, nobody, to be honest. Like, I mean, everybody has their own needs and desires and they want to be happy. But if you're in a relationship where it's like you have to, like, you feel like you're a dirty person for wanting to have sex with your significant other and they don't, it's like, why are you still, why, like, what can you do to, like, help that, you know?
Yeah, it's you know, like I said, it's something that for a lot of people, and it sounds like it is for him, it's very, very important. It is a defining characteristic of romantic relationships, is to be romantic. And this kind of goes into a couple of avenues where, YOLO, right? You only live once. And we have to remember that our society has brainwashed us to think that, again, your obligation is to get married and stay married forever. The reality is we change and grow as we get older. Most of the time, people change in incompatible ways and they grow apart. Every once in a while, people will change in compatible ways and they'll grow closer together. Because there's always that high school couple who's been happily married for 130,000 years, right? We all know one, but they are the vast, vast, vast minority. Most people will not stay emotionally, mentally, physically connected to the same person for that long. At best, we are serial monogamists, meaning we're monogamous for a period of time and then we move on and we're monogamous with someone else for a period of time. So I understand that he really loves her and likes her as a person and cares about her on all these different levels. And it certainly, it sounds to me, I mean, I would like to think in an idealized situation, if she is that disinterested in sex, that even if they were to go their separate ways and he were to find someone he's more compatible with, that he and her could still be friends and still co-parent their child. Because
Right.
this is not something that she really, she might even feel relieved. I mean, I can't speculate that, but I'm just saying that she needs to also be in a situation that she's happy in, and she might not want to feel like she's disappointing him or that she's holding him back or that she has to have sex with him. So, what is her side of the story? Because listening to how she would react to that, honestly, it might give you a lot more insight into what they're both going through and what they should do about this.
So you think that if they did separate or get a divorce or whatever, and they co-parented their child together, you think that since she's not so like a sexual person or she's not interested in sex anymore, you think that they would be better off separated than they would be together because she doesn't feel that pressure of like wanting like or needing to please him all the time, or like he's pressuring her to, not pressuring, but like she knows that he wants to have like to be sexually active with her and she's just not fulfilling that. So it's like if they separated and went their separate ways but still co-parented, she might feel a little bit like relieved of the fact that she doesn't have to have that pressure on her to be sexually active with him, just because she doesn't have that feeling maybe for him anymore. So
Yeah, I mean, obviously I can't speak for her, but that's certainly possible, I think, and it might be the type of thing where it's very tough in the beginning because when you have someone in your life and then you lose them, it's like it's grief. It's like you're losing someone.
Right. Exactly.
But then over time, it's possible that she could realize that this is actually better because now she can live her life in the way that she wants to, that fulfills her, and he
Right.
can live his the way he wants to, but they can still be amiable and get along and co-parent.
Right.
And anytime you lose someone, like that, it's gonna be tough for her to sleep alone for the first time, or whatever. But that's something that she might already know in her heart of hearts what she wants. But maybe she's afraid to be alone for other reasons.
Right. Like she's so used to just having him there. Like she doesn't want to be like, look, I can't be the person that you need me to be, or I can't be emotionally or sexually involved like you want me to be, that kind of thing.
Right.
So like maybe they're better off as being separated, or
you have the right to be happy and to pursue happiness.
right.
So that's what I was kind of saying before, in the spirit of you only live once, and remembering that it sounds like he's done all he could do to kind of save the relationship and stay with her.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, he's going to have to just ask himself, does he need to move on in order to better fulfill his life and what he needs to be a happy and healthy individual? Because you don't have to stay with someone just because society says you're supposed to.
Right. Exactly.
You need to do, and ultimately that will ultimately I would be afraid too, because he mentioned, I think, the word resentment, and resentment festers and it can turn very toxic, and that will be bad for the relationship and consequently bad for a bad influence on the child.
Right. Exactly.
I think co-parents who are divorced but still friends can be better for a child than people who stay married but like don't really want to be with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't teach a child.
Children sense that though. They sense like whether there's tension in the home or any kind of like argument. They pick up on that. They hear everything. So like, what do you want your child to grow up with? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that they both need to have an honest conversation, do some soul searching, and if this is, like I said before, it seems self-evident to me that this is an issue that is important, that is very important to him and not very important to her. And so if it divides them, then, this is really like the other side of cheating in a way. It's like when you cheat, you step out on someone, but this is like he can't get in kind of thing. So but
that's like
be equally painful.
Like I feel like that's like the next step. Like if he's tried everything and he hasn't gotten any like kind of positive response from her, like they've tried counseling, he's tried talking to her, he's tried like being physical with her, like emotionally and trying to involve, and he keeps getting shut down. It's like, what do you expect the man or woman to do in a relationship? Either you break up because of it, or you go looking for somewhere else.
Well, that's what I meant. That's what I mentioned in a tweet when you stepped away. Is they might explore ethical non-monogamy, where both of them know, he's not cheating because she's aware, but he can pursue, sexual relationships with another woman. And see how they feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a plausible thing.
There's also trial separation, and again, she might learn that she likes sleeping by herself. Like you said, after a week or two, it might be a relief to her and he might realize that once he's let go of the preconception that he's supposed to stay with her, then, it might be a weight off of his shoulder, or they might both realize that they like being with each other even without the sex. You never know until you do it how you're going to respond.
Yeah, exactly. So either they can break up, or he can see other women while they're still married, pretty much.
Yeah.
Depends on, what the situation is. But I have 2 comments here. They're pretty long, so I'm going to cover Tweet's head right now.
It's only been 3 hours. We're just getting started. We're halfway through the we're halfway through the list. It's been 3 hours. Go
I
ahead.
know. I told you it was
Take
going
us
to last a
on
long
another
time.
episode.
It's going to last a long time.
It's my fault. I talk too much.
No, you give some great advice and insight. So we really, really appreciate it. But Ryan Johnson says, when women have you, they no longer want you. You can't want what you own and think about it. You have to just live life and not focus on her not having sex with you. If you buy a new car and you own that car for 2 to 3 years, you eventually want a newer, better car, and that's how women work.
Boy, bye.
All right, so this is another comment. Don't let them completely have you. You should completely have her. We can love them forever, but we can love more than one woman.
No.
They can have only
Boy,
one man. They can have only one man at a time. Even if you're married, you have to contribute or continue playing the game even harder than before. You should love her, but not be in love. She has to be in love, if that makes sense. And
We
then
appreciate your comments, but
he also says you can't physiologically figure out attraction. You have to be an alpha male. So, Ryan, what do you have to say about all those comments right now?
Honestly, I don't really want to comment on that because I understand the mentality that that's coming from, and I don't want to invalidate, his feelings and his thoughts on the issue. That is not the way that the majority of people work and relationships, especially when you've been married for that long. There are no games.
he's jaded.
I've seen a baby come out of your I've seen you shit on the table. There's no more games. There's no more. All of that stuff has gone out the window. And what it sounds like, what he's saying with the last comment is, you should love the woman but not be in love, which basically means, but she should be in love. So you want the woman to be more invested in you.
You want your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, but you should dangle other women around and be with other women and have them all dangling on these hooks, and you like them, but you want them to like you more. So, and it's like, well, that's like a player kind of attitude. And if you are a player, that's your business. I don't, advocate for that. But they've been married for years and years, and a decade or more. They're beyond the player mentality and the player stage.
Right.
We appreciate your comment, but it was not reciprocated well.
He also says my name is Ryan too.
Oh, Ryan.
And he says I was married for 10 years.
I have a feeling he's going to say more.
I'm assuming that didn't end well, Ryan. I'm just saying.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think.
Well, this would be a whole other topic, but there is a lot that I can talk about when it comes to the dynamic between alpha males and women, and
Well,
how.
Ryan, before you go into that, we would.
I'm not going
have
to.
you back on another podcast,
Yeah.
so we could really go into further depth onto maybe some of these topics and get to some other questions that we didn't get to. But it is.
Well,
getting late.
I'm definitely not going to get into that. I wanted to point on his comment that there is some validity to the whole player and mentality and how it does work on women, but I don't think that it works in this context of them being married for so long. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
but thank you. Yeah, it's been it's been a real treat for me to talk to you guys, and I feel like I know I monopolized the conversation. But,
No,
I
you
hope
did
that-
amazing.
No, like,
I need
we
you to
were-
plug
we-
all of your Instagram, your Facebook, your whatever you need to plug it in case anybody would like to reach out to you and get some further information. But we'll definitely have you back on very, very soon.
Yes,
Oh,
but
yeah.
we did. Okay, so we're hitting like the 3 hour mark.
Yeah.
Okay, of our podcast, but we didn't get to touch on a lot of topics that we actually wanted to touch on. We hit like the basic ones that we went through or whatever. But we would love to have you back on another show.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. Yeah.
Yeah, and to like touch on the other subjects that we didn't get to because we had like a whole list of things, and I knew from the get-go like we weren't gonna like be able to like touch on everything. I understand that because of the comments and the questions that we had were very like in depth, but I appreciate you coming on here tonight.
Thank you.
And I loved your insight on everything. I learned so much from you guys, or Ryan. I learned so much, and Tweet. I love having you on the show. Love you.
Love you.
You had some great questions and topics and all that stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. I knew we weren't going to get to everything because of the self-perpetuating nature of conversation, but I think that we did a pretty good job. We didn't digress too far into, we digressed a little bit here and there, but we didn't turn any question into like a whole hour-long discussion about something else, which oftentimes happens when you're conversing.
It could. It definitely could.
It happens all the time, especially with my big mouth. Because like we could start talking about sex, and then if you get me talking about the religious influence on sex, we're going to be talking about religion for hours. So it's like, I'm glad that we were able to like kind of hone in the relation, the conversations and keep them for the most point on point,
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me. Of course, I would love to come back.
Can't wait to have you back.
I know. We have so many other questions that we want to ask you. Like, I would need to have you back on this show. Like, I don't know if it's going to be next week, the week after. I don't know. But we definitely want to have more insight on what you have to say because I loved hearing everything you had to say, and I'm sure our viewers loved it too.
And I will say to those who are still listening, who have hung in there with us, if you do have a question, I suppose Lady E, you're the one that's like fielding the questions. Please don't for a moment, like she said in the very beginning, these are anonymous. So don't for a moment feel embarrassed. There's no question that you can ask that you should be embarrassed about. I unfortunately Lady E stepped away, but I think the moment I said butt taco, everything
everybody went butt taco crazy.
we kind of realized that there is no boundaries here, know. So so please don't feel inhibited, especially when it comes to sex, because that's my specialty. And that's I want to say I really want to point this out really quickly, and I know you want to wrap things up, but in the very beginning we talked about red flags for those who are being abusive. Please, if you are in an abusive relationship, there are avenues that you can investigate to get out of these relationships.
Yeah.
No matter what he says, you do not deserve it.
I think it's like this and the finger down like this. If you do it in camera, there's a palm video. Like if you're on FaceTime, you could do that a certain palm, and to give somebody a signal that you're not in a good position.
But
Right.
there are like I can't think of the names off the top of my head, unfortunately. But there are places that you can call and talk to about these issues, because I don't care what he says. As my, I think it was Montana or JoJo or someone pointed it out. It starts off as protection, and I mentioned that the men do start off acting like it's for your own good, but then so oftentimes it turns into you bring it on yourself. You deserve that. You made me do it, because they're not accountable for their own actions. So no, you do not deserve it. You did not bring it on yourself. Okay, no matter what he says, he has no right to put his fucking hands on you. Okay, the only time anyone ever has the right to put their hands on someone else is if it's in self-defense. If you pull a gun on him, then yes, he has the right to defend himself. But there is nothing you can say that warrants him hitting you or even verbally abusing you. They're just not. I mean, if he's treating you like he owns you, like your property, it's because he's a piece of shit, and he wants to make you feel like a piece of shit so he can control you and not be alone by him, not be alone. Misery loves company.
Interject with this for one moment with exactly what you're saying, Ryan. I do know that there are some females that are alpha females that do this to men who are less confident in themselves. They do the same thing. So any men that may be scared to speak up and say that they're being verbally or physically abused by a woman, it is not okay regardless. Male,
especially
female, it is not okay. So
especially because men are trained not to hit back, and men are also trained that if a woman beats you up, you're a pussy, so don't talk about it. No, bullshit. Talk about it.
No.
It happens. It does happen. I like I said, I have been witness to it. I when I was 14, I knew a couple, and the woman was the guy was still a teenager, so he wasn't fully mature. He was legal. He was 18, 18, 19 area, but she was like in her early 20s, and she was very abusive, and they got into a fight. And one day I walked in, and she had a shotgun in his face. I had to restrain her. I'm 14. No 14-year-old should have to do this. I had to restrain her from the back and pull the gun away from him. But he let her do that to him, and he shouldn't have.
It goes both ways.
Yeah. And I definitely want to touch on that subject of domestic violence when we bring it back on to our show, because I love that topic, and I really, really, really want to address that topic, because I am a full supporter of non-domestic violence. I've been through it myself, so I definitely want to touch on that subject as well.
And sometimes it gets to the point where it's a matter of survival. Right. And if you need to call your brothers and your cousins and have them come and get you in the middle of the night, have your shit packed or whatever, you're right, Ryan. That's what Tweet brought up. Some men are victims of abuse too, and they should speak out. They shouldn't be afraid. But there is, if you feel like your life is in danger, it's because your life is in danger.
Right.
And there will reach a point where he can kill you, and it can be accidental, because you can hit someone in an accidental way and kill them or blind them. You can crush the maxilla bone around the eye and blind that person. You could hit them in the throat and not mean to, or and you can't. What can happen will happen, I guess you say. So if you feel like your life is in danger, it's probably because it is in danger. And
Right.
so you need to treat it that way. And no, he does not love you no matter how much he says he does. That's not love. You know, if you beat your child or a dog like that, everyone on the planet would know it's not love.
Right.
You know, and they would line up to kick that person's ass. So
Right.
likewise, you are just as valuable as that child and that dog. So if he's beating you, it's not love. So, you know, please break the cycle for your own safety.
Yes.
I
And he's
appreciate that, Ryan.
if he's
Thank you
isolated
so
you,
much.
if he has isolated you from your friends and family, he did it on purpose.
Yeah.
I don't like to make guarantees, but I think I can feel relatively safe in saying that if you go back to your friends and families and say, "Oh my fucking God, this guy is a monster, and he tore me away from everyone I loved and who cared about me and is treating me," they will probably stand up for you. They will probably take you back into their lives because they know that, you know, and don't be afraid. If you push your friends and family away and now you've come to the realization that you did it for the wrong, that you shouldn't have done that, go back to your friends and family. That they will most likely take you back once you've recognized that you're in an abusive relationship and that you need help. And maybe they can give you help. Don't be so proud, or don't think that they don't love you or they don't care about you because you pushed them away, because they know that that was him manipulating you and playing mind games and fucking with you.
Right.
And you know, it wasn't you. So give your friends and family more credit, and that they have your back more than you probably think they do. And if
Exactly.
not, there's outreach programs that you can contact as well.
I love that. I absolutely love that because a lot of women who go through that think that there's nobody behind them.
Right.
And they have nobody to turn to.
Yep.
So I love that you said that because even if you like, if the female, male, whoever comes to their family and was like, "Hey, like we just spilled it all out on the table," I'm pretty sure any family would just be like, I love you. We
Listen,
understand.
right
We're gonna
around
keep
there,
you warm."
literally a half a block from me, I live from a women's shelter that takes in
Yeah.
battered women and women who have been physically and emotionally abused with their children. I have taken a tour of the facility. It's a mansion. Like I live in Millionaires Row in downtown Easton. And one of the houses, one of the mansions, they've turned into a women's shelter.
That's awesome.
That takes in women and their children who have been physically and emotionally abused by people. And it you know, it's sad. It's literally sad to see, but you know, it is very, very hard. So,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it is something we could definitely touch on in another episode. So I greatly appreciate everything that we've spoken about. And this is not only against women, this is against men too. So by all means, please don't be scared to speak up or say something when something is not right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you don't want to talk to anybody else, you could reach out to women power or powerpwomen@gmail.com. We will help and facilitate any questions or concerns you might have and ask them or answer them to the best of our ability. If not, we will talk about them on our podcast discreetly.
also,
Won't mention your name and give our honest opinions as a group.
Right. And myself, I'm actually involved in the mentorship program on Clockwatch. So if you feel like you need some mentorship or just some personal advice, I specialize in, just domestic violence, PTSD, childhood, um, adulthood violence, drug and alcohol abuse. I'm taking classes to get certified on that kind of stuff. And that kind of thing is like I'm really passionate about. So we have that mentorship program on Clockwatch. So if you are interested in that, just hit me up. I'm always available. I will message you back. I've actually had a lot of people actually comment or send me private messages they want to get involved, they want my advice, and I really, really appreciate that. It means a lot to me to help people through my own experiences in life. So that's why I'm actually taking classes to become a certified counselor to help people in that situation. So, yeah, if you feel like you're in a difficult situation, just hit me up. I'll be more than happy to help you in that. I just wanted
Same
to
here.
and tweet. If you want to hit
Nicole
tweet
Ellis
us,
on Facebook if you need me.
yes, Nicole Ellis. You can also hit her up too if you want some advice from her, some women empowerment. We are all about that. We can help you out. Power P is every Friday night at 8 p.m. So don't forget our show. Stay tuned. And I love to see your comments and your questions. And I love to interact with our viewers. Clockwatch podcast is every Sunday and Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. I'm also on that show, and we are there with Black Earth, King Clips, Big Kev, Montana, Ritalin. We are all on that show. And most of the time, we are all on there, depending on our schedules and all that shit. But I'm always there. And then we have In Your Face podcast hosted by Ritalin every Saturday and Monday nights at 8 p.m. So make sure you stay tuned for that because he talks about the Buccaneers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. He goes about all like ins and outs of Tampa Bay Bucks. It's a football thing if you're into that. And then stay tuned for The Professional with Big Kev. And I'm really looking forward to Big Kev's show, The Professional, because I love his every time he comes on the show. Okay. I always agree with everything he says. Like, I want to know his insight on everything. I'm so intrigued by what he has to say. So I'm really, really, really excited about his show coming out, The Professional. And then we have The Raid with King Clips. I don't know if you guys have caught that on our Facebook group page, but he gave us a little insight on The Raid. And it's basically him and his boys who are dressed up as superheroes going out and causing chaos. Chaos. Is that even a word?
Havoc.
I think you were going between havoc and anarchy. I think you were.
Yeah,
You
I think you're right.
It's a shit show between all of them. It's okay.
I think you're right on that. Let's go with that. Hey Art, that's my new word for that show.
hey, you said it, so it's a word now.
It's definitely a word now, so we're gonna go with it. Hey Art. And make sure you tune in for that because that shit is funny. I watched a little clip for that, and they're dressed as like superheroes going out on the town. It's supposed to be like an anime funny show, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I am Lady E, and I want to thank Ryan for coming on this show tonight. I really, really appreciate you coming on. I love your insight. I love, everything you had to say about these questions. We missed a lot of the questions that we wanted to touch on, and hopefully we can just add those to like a next podcast so we can touch on those subjects because I'm very interested on what you have to say about the other subjects. Like I didn't get my answers, but I mean, I got some of the answers, but not all the answers. So I need to hear more, and I hope our viewers want to hear more from you. And I'm pretty sure they do. So would you like...
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I had a really great time talking with you guys.
Great. Yeah.
I like the energy between us.
Yeah.
So I think that's good.
Yeah.
We have a good rapport, I think. So that makes things easier.
Right.
It was great,
like
Ryan,
this.
having you on our show. So we
Thank
greatly
you.
appreciate
Thank
it. Your insight, your commentary, your opinions to what we had, or questions was greatly appreciated, and we can't wait to have you back on.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate it.
Literally, I cannot wait because I have so many more questions. And I'm sure our viewers do after tonight. So literally, we cannot wait.
So
Literally.
my PayPal account is.
Fucking plug it. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so why don't you tell our viewers how they can get in contact with you if they need some professional advice or they want to, have a little deeper conversation with you. Why don't you tell our viewers about that?
Well, right now, I most commonly check my Facebook professional page, which is Ryan CRC. As it's presented on the screen there. And as I said in the beginning, the CRC stands for Certified Relationship Coach, in case anyone's confused about that. Coming soon will be more of like YouTube videos and stuff, but that'll be me educating. It won't be interactive. So if anyone has like a question or they want to, and again, if you ask me a question, it can be completely anonymous and I can address it on the show. But yeah, Ryan CRC is my professional page. So if you want to like that or subscribe to that page, and that's the best way to see what's going on.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. And let's just say goodbye to all of our viewers who are watching right now.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
It was amazing. We'll see you next Friday.